Welcome to Self-Perfected.
And we're back.
So everybody, did
So
you have a great week since you last listened to our podcast? Because if not, you're fucking up. Like if you're not having a great week every week, you're doing something seriously wrong.
I just want to address the elephant in the room.
You have an elephant in your room?
You guys can't see it?
No.
See, we told you he was tripping.
I gotta talk to Katie about these mushrooms we keep eating from the woods. I swear we have a mushroom identification group and they said they were just reishi.
Oh.
Those are a little more than reishi.
Do you actually have reishi mushrooms growing in on your property?
Yeah, dude, we got a bunch. Well, I don't know if it's a bunch. It was like I put a picture of it.
Yeah.
You didn't look at all my posts
on your Facebook or Instagram? Because I'm still catching up.
I don't use.
I just watched Cat Williams stuff yesterday. No, I mean whatever you call it, Signal.
Oh no, yeah, on Facebook.
Hilarious.
No,
I said I'm a reishi master because I was joking about being a Reiki master.
Hey, wow, I bet you offended some of those Reiki fanboys.
Right. I remember this one guy. He said that he had like 1,000 angels behind him whenever he does Reiki.
Damn, dude.
Like,
What? Why?
Just like you see the elephant.
Focused on
just
him.
like you see.
Are those the angels that ignore the child rapes? Or
Right, exactly. Like what the hell?
Yeah. Well, the reishi mushrooms are really cool because you can. I used to be super into superfoods and stuff, so I would get these reishi mushrooms from the store. I think you order them online.
He used to be into superfoods, like as if.
Well, I still am.
Doesn't
but
try to combine every fucking superfood.
That's true.
On the planet.
I used to more study it. Now I've automated it.
Yeah.
Now I have automated my process for this.
Uh-huh.
But what you do is you get like the big chunk of the reishi thing, and you can boil it. You can boil like 20 times the water through it, and it will break it down. And then you just put it into everything else. So it's like broth. You put it with your coffee. Put it with everything. It's fucking. You feel like a reishi master when you're doing that.
I should have Katie ask you questions about it because I know she's doing something with it, but I think she was going to make some kind of tincture with alcohol or something.
Oh yeah, you could do that too. I never got into that. But I can boil water on a stove. So
yeah, exactly.
I was stuck with the basics.
Yeah, we got that. We've got we found turkey tails.
Mm.
And Max really is trying to find witch's butter.
Which is
okay.
Never heard of that.
Dude, I'm telling you, when these kids have techno tutor, like they are next level, man. I don't know where they got this book. Maybe Katie got it because Katie's been interested in mushrooms lately because she's a part of this. Katie does such cool stuff. Like she knows like every snake here in Texas. Like she'll be like, what snake is this? And I'm like, I don't know. And she like knows what kind of snake it is. I mean, it's crazy. And you would think like, oh, that's easy to do, right? It's not. Man.
You're like, it's a black one. I don't know.
Yeah. Well,
it's a big snake.
Black
with a capital B.
I know what a copperhead looks like, and then I see a picture of it. I'm like, oh, that's a copperhead, right? It's like, no, it's not. So anyways, so she's a part of this group where it's like people post pictures of snakes and then they identify them and stuff. And it's like the kids have this game. I forget what they call it, like the snake game or something. And they'll like go on. Katie will go on there and be like, okay, what snake is this? And the kids are getting really good at it because they'll be like, oh, that one has
there's straight up
bars
just
or something, you know.
It's like these are straight up real snakes on your property that you're going to look at, or this is like pictures.
Yeah, Katie's she's out there catching them. Like she's like pretty much Steve Irwin.
We honestly don't see snakes.
Crocodile hunter.
Oh, I'm just confirming because I'm like, this sounds intense.
Last year. I didn't even see one snake last year at all
because he shot the last one.
I saw more snakes here. We don't even have poisonous snakes here. It's so mild where I live. It's like so.
You live in Ireland?
No, it's just like perfect all the time. Here, we don't have snakes. We don't have lizards.
They don't have snakes, right? I was thinking about Enya.
Oh, Cameron secretly has a celebrity crush on.
You know why they don't have snakes in Ireland? Do you know the story?
They killed
Dad joke inbound.
Why?
They killed them all. Yes, they went and killed every single snake.
Did you know in Texas, actually, is it in Texas? I think it's in Texas. In Texas, they will go and hunt snakes for a whole convention where they just create leather out of snakes, and so they'll go
Ooh.
and like they'll
That's how they made those my cowboy boots I have.
Yeah,
They're like literally
snake skin
reptilian boots. I was like, damn, this is cool.
I thought
No,
yours were lizard.
if anybody
Oh
knows the
shit, maybe it
answer,
is lizard. I don't know.
yeah, they're lizard.
I was deciding
Rep-
between like 3 and I was
You
just overwhelmed.
you reptilist.
Yes.
Think they all look the same, don't you?
You do.
You
Don't
just think
they?
all lizards and snakes look the same.
All mushrooms too. Yeah.
Boy,
Tucky,
you can't
tucky
tell your
tail.
snake from a lizard. That's what we say in Texas.
Yeah.
I was gonna say I could picture one of your neighbors saying that. Or someone in Jefferson
No,
saying
but there's a really interesting story about how they drove all the snakes out of Ireland. I'm sure some people know this, but you know that Enya song we were listening to earlier, Orinoco Flow, Sail Away, Sail Away. They basically blasted that really loud, and all the snakes just like sailed away on boats.
It's sort of like the Pied Piper, like
Yeah,
but in reverse. But
yeah.
Enya.
So to this day,
snakes.
Enya is considered a saint in Ireland. Saint Enya.
Ah, Saint Enya. And if you
Yeah.
channel Reiki hard enough, she will appear before you.
Yes.
I've heard. I heard from some guy.
Tell us about your
was
your
this guy
elephant.
also on mushrooms? Oh, look at my face.
Oh, you got a little
Oh
scratched
man.
up.
Okay. Let's all guess
Now-
what happened to Cameron.
I
Was
know what
this A?
Uh-huh.
What? We have big dogs.
Not that.
B. Driving through the woods on ATV, scratching by branches.
Potentially, but I don't think so.
Doubt it.
Yeah.
C. I need to cut my toddler's fingernails.
Yes, you do. Yes, you fucking do.
See. C for Caius. C for
C for
Caius's
Caius.
claws.
Yeah.
We call him Caius Rex. We should have called him Caius Velociraptor. If you know what I mean?
Damn. That's
Bro, I
intense.
told you to cut his nails the last time I was there. That was months ago. What's going on?
It's so interesting. Okay. It's so interesting how obvious it is when you have like a little boy and a little girl together, just the natural expression of male versus female. Because like with Aristotle too, he'll just be jumping on you, hitting you, just it's like so expressive, so physical. It's like there is no way somebody can honestly tell you, oh, he doesn't know his gender. He could be a girl. It's like, no, he's clearly.
Well, what it is though is like the parent is subtly treating the child in a certain way, and like you know what I mean, and they're creating that. I mean, it's very obvious that you create your child
Because I see how at a certain point it
99.9%
could
of everything
shift.
about them.
Yeah, I see how if you did, cater
You
to
know
the
what-
kid in that way.
What's funny
it would
about
shift
that?
expression.
What's funny about that is like somebody who's like trying to raise a transgender child would say the only reason that your child, is male or female or whatever is because you keep, pushing them into that box, and so that like they're basically like they're acknowledging that you create the child, right? And so they're trying to pretend as
Good
if
point.
they're not.
Hey, that's a
having
great
an
point,
influence,
man. Yeah, it's like they're saying it's all social norms, like we've created that. It's like, so you admit. Oh, but also if you're gay, that's totally hardwired at birth. But also you can choose your gender. Like, what the fuck are you talking about?
It's
did you guys
feelings.
see that Vivek Ramaswamy thing?
Yeah,
That's pretty good.
Maybe we should play that. Well, there was this cool point where we looked at it together. It was like this short-haired lesbian woman, right? And I'm just describing this person.
Self-identified lesbian.
Then it's self-identified. Myself identified it
on that day at least.
I
Who
identified
knows?
with the lesbian.
Because is that one of those things that is hardwired, or is that one of those things that changes moment to moment?
Well, she was like, it was so interesting because it was so emotional. And they're at it. I'll describe it for everybody. They're at a town hall. Well, it's not even a town hall. It's a little just a meeting in the place, like a little restaurant or something, or
in like some sort of hall in some
sort of
town.
Some mead hall. They were in the mead hall.
She definitely had that beer in her hand.
Beowulf was there. Anyways, he was just answering questions, but it was like a campaign stop, and he was like, I'll answer the tough questions. Like, what are your tough questions, right? And somebody just goes LGBTQ, and he's like, what? And she goes, you heard it. He's like, He's like, what did you say? She's like, you heard what I said. He's like, no, actually I didn't. And then he's like, while he's talking, she's like, LGBTQ. He's like, what? He's like, LGBTQ.
It's like, what about
And he's like, what's your question? She's like, what's your stance?
Apparently he was saying something about trans. He's like, you said something about trans.
It seemed like, yeah, maybe he had said something and she was like bringing it back up. And she was like, these kids are getting bullied because they're gay, they're lesbian, they're trans, right? And he goes, well, look, here's my perspective on it. That is the trans. He didn't even say the gay and lesbian. He said the trans is a mental disorder. And she obviously gets very upset about that. Yeah. And she's like, tells her story, like, you know, she grew up in this town they're in and she's a lesbian. Right. And kids get bullied for stuff like that. And he's like, well, they shouldn't be bullied. I mean, I'm paraphrasing. He's like, you know, they shouldn't be bullied. They should be supported. Like they need help, right? They need support. I mean, he doesn't have a solution for it, obviously, but it was cool. She was like, it's not a disorder. It's how they fucking feel.
Yeah.
Or no, what was the,
that's what she said.
Yeah, I think that's what that was the response was to them having a disorder. And I was just looking at that point of like, okay, it's how they feel. Yeah. What does that have to do with reality though?
What's that have to do with it? It's not mutually exclusive. It's like we say it all the time, right? Like,
imagine you're born like, imagine you're born as the son of the king of Saudi Arabia.
Yeah.
How do you feel?
I don't know.
Yeah, but I mean, how do you feel about all the other people? Like they're like your subjects and shit. And like you're better than them, and like you know, what I mean, that's how you feel. So that's true. Yeah. Or is it? So, racist white people feel they're superior to other races. So that's reality, right? Or is that's not a valid way of how to feel? So it's not a fucking logical argument. What's the point of talking about it if you don't want to actually apply common sense to it?
Right. Yeah.
If there's no way to address it, it's just how they feel. Okay, well then how he felt is that it's a mental disorder. So how do you have any common ground or any point? And it's clearly like this person has a mental problem.
Yeah.
Yep.
You know, and it was cool him pointing that out. But it's like, okay, so here's the point I didn't get into when we were talking about the other day. Okay, so then I saw another clip from, I think it was from that same stop, but it might not have been. I think he was just wearing the same clothes. I don't know. But somebody goes, okay, your first
leather jacket with the sheepskin just doesn't change. It's like, this is my country clothes.
I think he's going for the Sherpa look. He's like, I will carry your packs up the Himalayas. So you don't get frostbite, America.
Beautiful. So
Biden beautiful. Is nipping at the earlobes of America, just like Frosty Jack Frost. I mean,
where did I read that? Actually, nipping at the earlobes. Oh, you know what? In Flow My Tears, like in the first chapter, he's talking to.
No one knows what you're talking about except me.
I'm talking to you.
Guys, I have read 3/4 of so many Philip K. Dick novels. That's not funny.
Why haven't you finished them?
I have finished. Like I've finished a few. I mean, he's got like 40 something books, but I finished a few of them. But some of them, I just get 3/4 of the way through, and I'm like, I can't follow what the fuck. And it's not because I can't read. It's like a fucking acid trip. I mean, it's like it stops making sense at a certain point, and it's like he's just tripping out. I mean, I'm not saying it's not great literature or blah 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 or whatever. Maybe it's great writing, but it's just like when you're trying to read late at night and you're falling asleep and you're like,
this is why Cameron.
Dude, like one of the characters in, I think it's in the Galactic Pot Healer, I think, and not pot as in marijuana, as in a ceramic pot.
Okay.
It's this creature, and at times it appears like some I can't remember exactly, but it's like some disc or like wheel with eyeballs on it or something, and then sometimes it appears as a teenage girl, but all at the same time. It's so fucking weird. Like it doesn't make sense. What I'm saying. It's what I'm saying. It's like he's describing something out of the Bible. Anyways, what are we talking about?
Vivek
nipping at the
Vivek had a different one.
So there was another clip, and Actually, I'm gonna pull it up because not the clip, but Vivek's
The way you say Vivek, it sounds
Vivek.
like
No, it's
just.
actually Vivek. It's actually
Are you
Vivek.
sure? Are you sure? Sounds like just
No,
trying
I
to
was
say.
actually it's funny. I was watching Candace Owens and she
Yeah.
was talking about being on the campaign trail with him. She's like, when I first interviewed him, I kept calling him Vivek, and it's actually Vivek. So I have figured out how to say his name. See, Drake, you're racist.
I thought that was obvious. I'm trying to been telling you guys that this whole fucking time. Nobody's listening.
Are you
I'm
racist?
trying to find. Oh,
Yeah,
here it is.
hello.
I'm trying to find his
Okay.
10 truths. His 10 truths.
Oh yeah.
1. God is real.
That's just 10 truths.
2. There are 2 genders. Incorrect, first of all. Okay, first of all, 1. Well, it's kind of hard to argue with God is real.
You said it's kind of hard to argue
Why?
with it.
Because it's how I fucking feel.
It's
That's
how
like his version of
I feel. Because what is God?
Okay, all right.
If you're
You define
saying
it.
reality is real, okay, but you're not saying reality is real. You're saying God is real. He
I
knows
was-
his voter base.
I was talking with someone.
See, I don't like that. I mean, I don't. It's how I feel. I don't like it. I wish he would say what he actually thinks. Maybe he does think that.
I was talking with someone yesterday.
Win the game. Got to win the game.
And we were talking about man, okay, all right. So apparently Trump had a town hall that was pretty good. I missed it though. But we were talking about when I was growing up, I remember being told that God is in everything, right? And in my mind, I was like, oh, okay. So that means God is in me, right? God, like, and I would ask, like, is he in that chair over there? Like, yeah. Is he in that tree? Yeah. Okay. Is he in me? Yeah. Okay, cool. So I'm God. No. Like, wait, what? Like,
It's just in you. You're not.
And
he's
yeah.
not.
in me. That's like there's a song.
No, in you.
He's in you. He's in you.
God is in you.
Yeah. God is omnipotent, omnipresent, whatever.
I think we found our podcast out.
God is in you. Hilarious.
God is okay, but anyways, God is real. That's his first one.
Okay.
And so in this video, the guy was like, hey, he's like, that's your first number one truth. And he's like, how do you speak to atheists who are apparently this guy said the biggest voting bloc in America? And Vivek said, yeah, he agreed with that statement, which I haven't asked X .ai yet, or Grok AI. I haven't grokked it yet. I haven't GPT'd it. But
I didn't know that was a thing. Atheists
well,
are
I mean, you're gonna ask Google or you're gonna ask Grok?
I don't even know who I'm gonna ask. In fact, okay, let's start there with Google. What was it called? Ephemeral experiences, something like that. Ephemeral something, right? What Google's doing? Effeminate, effeminate experiences. Mitchell, do you know about this?
No.
The ephemeral stuff going on.
Why are you trying to
Google?
take me off track here?
I'm not trying to take you off track. I'm keeping you
What
on
ephemeral
track.
stuff?
I'm keeping you
about-
on track, my man. You're like, I have a lot of things to cover. I'm helping you cover those things. Okay. All right.
My points are not ephemeral. Okay. How many people listening to this know what the word ephemeral means without having to look it up?
Okay, we'll give you a second. Christine, look at the
I'm
look
not
at the
asking
chat.
you guys. I'm saying the people listening. Yeah.
Mitch is still raising his hand. He's like, but I know.
It's a high five.
10 points.
I got you.
10
got you,
points in the
Mitch.
chat
High
for
five.
whoever knows.
I mean, it's not like that.
Christine,
Crazy order.
anybody responding yet?
Okay,
So what's
anyways.
happening with Google?
All right. So it was on Jimmy Dore, right? This
when
guy,
they give you ads,
yeah,
they go away.
yeah.
They're just gone. Like if they sent you an ad, and then you don't have a screenshot of it or recording of it, you can't see it ever again, right? So it's like an
Mhm.
ephemeral experience.
Mhm.
Yeah. Also, when you type into Google Hillary Clinton emails and nothing comes up, versus when you type in Donald Trump and it's like felony and this and that and this and like like it gives you the suggestions. Those are
Yeah.
also ephemeral. Experiences.
Oh, maybe I missed that part, but that makes sense. Like
Yeah.
what you were suggested or what your search results were
Yeah.
was an ephemeral experience because somebody else could
Also,
do it or you could do it again. It could be different. It's not
yeah.
recorded somewhere, I
So
guess.
so that important part as well, what your search results are is like it's literally different for every person.
Like if they're trying to manipulate you with it, it's just a quick thing that happened that one time. It's not like a Wikipedia. Well, it's not like a book where it's like, well, there's a permanent record of them saying this, trying to manipulate you.
Mhm.
You know what I mean?
Right. Right. And so what that means then is they can manipulate those who are on the fence about who they're going to vote for by constantly suggesting the candidate that they want and suggesting that the candidate that they don't want is bad or whatever by the articles that they suggest. It's like, oh, and there'll always be, of course, left-leaning, Democrat-leaning articles that they're suggesting, right? Because that's what Google values, right?
Yeah.
And so essentially what's going on there is one of the things that he said was they'll send out like a don't forget to vote, right?
Like an
But
ad to your thing or a post that says, to remind you to vote on the day of voting. But it was like 100% of people who were liberal got it, like
yeah,
only
50%.
40%, or it was like some far less number of like conservatives.
Yeah. And
Right.
so what
And they were saying like it has an effect. Dude, he was saying, do you remember it was like something between 6 to 20 million votes will be affected, influenced by Google, like as a fact. Like he said, the 6 million, the low number is like guaranteed, like that they know for a fact. The higher numbers is more like they're kind of educated guessing based on points.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so they were
and actually 6 million might be a low number. I'm just remembering it was like maybe 10 to 24 or something like that, but whatever.
It was showing as well, like if Google had not influenced all these people in this way, definitely Trump would have won, and then all these other like senators would have gotten their seat because of Google's influence. It was just like nope. And so apparently,
do y'all remember when Trump won? And then it was like right after that, there was like people at Google were like, they were having an all hands meeting and the CEO was like, we're not going to let this happen again. Like, and it was being exposed and we were watching it happen and they actually are doing it and no one did anything to stop it. Like, it's like, oh, they're just saying that maybe, or they're just emotional. It's how they fucking feel. But like they actually like did something but now imagine they can actually do something. They can actually influence people. I mean, obviously.
Yeah. And the other thing that he said that was really crazy was how Google, every time they come out with a new feature, it's actually to track you even more. Right. And so every time they come out, like when they came out with incognito mode and they said, so you can have more privacy, it's like, no, it's literally and implied in that is it's the idea of okay, what are you going to do when you think nobody's watching? Now, what do you search for?
And of course, they're watching that. So they're saying they're not. And then they've proven that, no, it's actually false. They're actually tracking you.
And they've been caught. And they're like, oops, sorry.
And it was a really cool interview. I think I sent it to y'all, or obviously, because you saw it too, right?
Yeah.
I know, Mitch, you like to ignore our messages, but.
My watch later is fucking backlogged.
Can I make my obligatory joke?
Yes.
Okay. He's just his backlog. He's still trying to get past the first chapter of Paul.
Hey, I made some progress the other night.
Chapter 1, I will.
Okay. Hey, here's a question for my fellow book readers. So when I was reading,
what they should call it is fall asleep. I'm reading.
Nice. That was great. Shots fired at Neil Stevenson. Okay. What I realized is
moonshots.
In the past, I used to read the book and like want to read every single word because it was like really good. So I'm like, it was just taking me more time to read the thing. And then I made the decision the other day because I have so many books I want to read and like I genuinely enjoy reading, but it's just like I'm just like fucking stuck on it. So I'm like, okay, well, what if I just within myself am okay with like getting 80% of it? It's like if I get 80% of this, my mind will piece together the rest. And sometimes there's like you could tell a really important sentences in there that like change it, like I know you know what I'm saying. So that was a shift I had, but it was really cool because then I was like making more progress through it. I felt like I was actually just getting more out of it. I felt right. That's how I
You
fucking felt.
grokking it.
I was grokking it.
That's all that
Yeah.
matters. How you fucking
So,
feel.
How do you know you didn't miss like an important part?
what?
How do you know you didn't miss like an
Well,
important part
okay,
that's
let
gonna
me
come
give you
up
an
later?
example. Well, I don't, without giving a spoiler, let's just say that at one point a character is no more. And I was like, wait, what? And then I had to look back at the last paragraph and I was like,
You're
oh,
not referring
oh,
to
okay.
Dodge, are you?
No, no, no.
Okay, you're just saying. Spoiler alert.
That's so funny. Holy, no. That's a very different, that's a different chapter of the book. No, this is like in the middle, like as they're learning how to navigate that
Mm.
world,
Where you're
and
like,
then
holy shit! Like all of a sudden, like you weren't expecting it.
yeah, and I was like, whoa, and then because I missed that exact line. But
Like
anyway,
Ex
See,
Machina
see,
vibes, Ex Machina vibes.
I haven't seen Ex Machina.
you haven't seen Ex Machina? I think you would
Is
like
that
that one.
next on your
Cameron's fucking
list?
face right there. That's
Jesus.
so.
Out of
My list
all
is
the
getting crazy.
all the movies that you've watched, I
Look,
can't believe
here's
you
the
haven't
thing.
watched that
I
one.
watched Lord of the Rings more
Mitch,
than.
I don't understand. Like when we talk about all this stuff, like the robots and the AI and all that, I don't understand how you are following what we're saying. Because I'm assuming that,
High
like, no, I mean,
vocabulary. I'm level
that's
12
to
in
your credit.
TT.
That's
Yeah,
to your credit. I'm not saying it as an insult. I'm saying like it
yeah.
just shows your possibility because you have no context.
I mean, I'm trying to
None
think even where I got the
whatsoever.
download of the AI. It was from listening to you for years, and then it was the AI whatever it's called. The fuck they call the thing? AI Dilemma. That one that came out. That's when I
Right.
really that plus I fuck around on ChatGPT. I don't know, once a month I'll like go pretty deep and like really see what it can do. And it's pretty intense.
Have you ever read The War Against Normal People?
No.
Oh, man.
Is
That's
this like a top of my next book list or like a middle and I'll get to it
which one
in
was
No,
it?
6 months?
I can give you the gist of it right now. It's
Who wrote that one?
Andrew Yang. Andrew Yang.
It is
Oh,
Yang. Okay, I was gonna say that's Yang, right? Yeah.
Yeah, that's Yang.
yang.
But basically this was in like 2017, I think that book came out. But he was talking about it before then. But in 2017, the book came out and he was like, hey, I have been talking to everybody in the tech world. I'm seeing what's happening because he had a business that involved tech. And he was like, the amount of automation and the capability of what we have in a very short time is going to explode and people are going to be completely displaced. Like they're not gonna, there's not gonna be jobs the way that we think of them anymore. And he was just talking about simple stuff like um, truckers would be losing their jobs and things like that. And he was like, and that's gonna cause a breakdown within our economy because these people are going to lose their jobs. They're not going to have any money. And then what? And so he was basically arguing for.
No, they're gonna learn. They're gonna learn.
They're going to learn code.
Java.
Exactly. Exactly. Do you remember that? Like, journalists would say like, "Oh, these people are going to learn to code," right? And then on Twitter,
people started saying that to people, like learn to code when they would lose their jobs.
Whenever somebody, especially a journalist, lost their job, they'd be like, learn to code. And then that became like, you weren't allowed to say that on Twitter.
Now
anymore.
It's like a racist talking point or like, yeah.
But it's like, you're so out of touch. You've been telling people to learn to code. Why don't you go fucking learn to code?
Right.
Anyway, I guess people don't like it when you like throw it back in their face. I guess, I don't know. But anyway, Andrew Yang was basically saying like, I've been going to politicians telling them we need to have some sort of universal basic income for all these people who are going to lose their jobs. And we need to start setting that up now. And he's like, and no politician would hear him. They're not even considering that. They're still talking about the same old talking points from the past. And clearly, like, now all of a sudden, now it's like, oh, maybe we should be thinking about that. But even still, I don't hear any politicians saying like, we're going to make sure that you have an income or anything like that. I'm not seeing any of that. And it's really clear what's happening right now with AI. Like it's been plastered all over the place. I just talked with the family yesterday and the dad's in cybersecurity. And I was just asking him like, have you seen what's going on with AI? And he's like, dude, with the robots and all that, like, yeah, it's serious. And he's like, and they're like looking at, okay, how much is the world going to change? How will we be able to prepare our children? They're seeing that, and they're just, the average family, right? And so our politicians are, I think, to an extent, being very quiet about this huge topic that's going to affect a lot of people. But
well, yeah, politicians, generally speaking, their job is not to inform people or to talk about things that matter. It's their job is to do the bidding of the fucking system. So, I mean, man, what were we talking about before when you said you weren't sidetracking me?
Vivek, we were talking about
Oh yeah.
How would you say?
Well, let me finish that point
Vivek.
because then we can move on.
Vivek, like a cake.
So he has this point, God is real, right? And
Yeah.
that guy, the atheist guy, was like, what do you say to people like us? Like, how is that your first proposition, your first truth? Like, how do you speak to us then? Because you need our vote, basically, right? And he just goes on about, the government's not enforcing Christianity on anyone. They're enforcing woke religion. It's just like a faith, it's like a cult like faith, right? And all this stuff. And then this guy this guy was kind of on the side of it really is actually enforcing Christianity and Christian values on people, the government. I mean, you could go back and forth on that argument, whatever. But I just thought it was interesting, this point of you have to use pure logic when it comes to the woke stuff, right? And there are two genders, and that's truth. And you can't have a faith that there's more than two genders and that you can choose all this stuff. But God is real, and that's my faith. And you have freedom of faith in America. So you can't, which is it?
Yeah,
do you see what my point?
Sense.
It
Yeah.
doesn't make sense because the guy, actually, the atheist guy had a cool point. He goes, your number one thing is God is real. And he's like, why are you making that your number one thing? Something that we're never, ever going to be able to find the answer to or come to an agreement about.
Yeah.
Right. Which I disagree with that in a certain sense, obviously, but he's got an interesting point. It's like, why are you suddenly taking that on as your number one point? Like, how does it strengthen your point to say that God is real? How does it strengthen anything?
Yeah.
If God is real, why do you need to affirm it?
Yeah.
Just like pandering to the audience.
Be like,
and if God is real, how does that imply anything about genders?
Be like, there are brown people. Okay. Okay. And
yeah, it's just showing the fucking like level that we're at collectively. And also how I look at this is what, for example, when I was watching Vivek, however you say his name, in that town hall, I was like, man, what would I do in that situation? Like when you're like talking to a bunch of people, you're getting like heckled by people and all that. It's like preparing myself to be in that position and preparing the people around me to be in those positions, because that's where we're going. We're taking over politics.
That's why I always heckle you.
I know.
Here.
I know.
I'm just trying to
and then
you.
I'm like, Cameron, that's just how I fucking feel, man. And then you're like, oh,
Right.
Great. We have so much in common now.
Yeah. But it's just an interesting point. I'm not trying to go on and on about the God point specifically. It's just like that idea of like, because he goes and gives this answer on the God thing about like, you have freedom of faith. But then before it was like, oh, this transgender stuff is a cult like faith. So how do you reconcile that at all? Like it's like, if you're going to say everyone has a right to have the faith that they choose, and that's a basic right, then how do you get upset that some people are really serious about their faith about transgenderism, and they're serious about it, and they are vocal, and they have money, and they have groups, and they have political power? So what right do you have? Like, because if you're going to say no, you can't impose that, then I say, well, then stop fucking talking about God. Right. Not because I'm offended about it. It doesn't bother me when people talk about it, but from the perspective of, if you're going to be logically consistent, because that is your faith, and then it's interesting because then that is the very same point people will use to attack even what we're saying. It's like, oh, it's a cult, it's a faith, it's a belief, like you're in a cult. And it's like, well, believing in God is a cult. Like even the people at the highest level of government at all levels are in some kind of a faith. If you're an atheist, you're in a faith. You have a belief. You don't know.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, dude, I thought about this cool point. Hold on. Let me think for a second. I saw some YouTube clip. I didn't watch it. I just saw like the thumbnail, and it was some like it was like an answer to if God, I don't know, what was it? Like if like how like what created God, right?
Okay.
And I was thinking about that point of like, the argument of, well, everything has a creator, or everything was created by something. So God had to be created by something, right? If you're right. But what created the universe? Let's say there's no God. What created the universe?
Right.
What?
The Big Bang.
But what created that? What created everything that's here if there's no God?
Obviously, two people banging.
All right, but no, but seriously, like, what would the answer be?
I don't even know. I don't know what
If,
the argument is.
wouldn't it just be like, well, the
It's like
universe
that
has always
stuff
been here?
about Kant, right? Remember last week we were talking about Kant and how it's like the very structure of how we see things like has to factor in space and time.
Yeah.
And so it's
But what I'm
like,
saying is, what wouldn't
yeah.
somebody say like, even okay, well, in that case, obviously the universe always existed. It didn't have a creator,
Mhm,
right? So
Yeah.
okay, well, neither did God then.
mhm.
So I
Yeah.
just don't see how you could disprove it or prove
Yeah.
it. It's like so stupid. And
Yeah.
then you look at it, it's like the only actual logical explanation to all of it is that we're God.
Yep. Yep.
We're here. Like we're the actual thing that's here. It's like, it'd be like if you were in a room that was on fire, right? And you were like, dude, we need to put out this fire. And everyone goes, well, if a firefighter was here, they would put it out. And you're like, yeah, okay, but we got to put this fire out. And you're like, yeah, but I believe in firefighters. You're like, okay, they're not here. Like, we need to get the fuck out of here or put the fire out. Yeah, but I have faith in the firefighters. Okay, they're not here. Like, they're clearly not doing it. Like, they're not showing up. It's been 20 minutes. They're still not here. I don't hear sirens. Like, we need to fucking take care of this. Like, quit putting it
Okay.
on.
What's
There's one more thing I
interesting
want to
about
say,
that?
but yeah.
Go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Well, there was a post I saw. It was somebody who friended me. I think, well, anyway, it doesn't matter, but I saw their thing on Facebook. They're a recent friend. And it was this post about, it was like, there's only two things. Like, either I created it and therefore I'm responsible, or God created it. Right. And it was like the idea of kind of like let go of the things you can't control and take responsibility. And so I was looking at that, like, how do you, and I'm not going to ask this person because it's pointless, but especially on social media, but how do you know when it's a thing that God is in control of, or when it's actually your choices as to why something's occurring, or you can affect it?
Right. It's a flawed starting point. It's a starting point of separation instead of equality.
But how do they make that determination? Isn't it still based on how you
I don't
fucking
think
feel?
there's any that's what it is. It's how you fucking
Isn't it?
feel.
Well, in this case, like it's like you're like so overwhelmed by it. You're like, there's no way I can change this. So it's got to be a God thing. And it's like, but your whole point of the post, when you look at it, was about taking 100% responsibility for your
Right.
life.
Right.
But then also at the same time, leaving yourself a backdoor of excuse to not take full 100% responsibility. So you can, at some level, justify why my wants, my needs, my desires are actually paramount importance than anything else. And like at a certain point, if somebody says I'm responsible to like let go of that and do something else, I don't have to, because that's in God's hands. And it's this whole, and this is why, I'm always going on and on about the God point. It's not because the concept of God as a standard of what we should do in a way of treating each other in a way that's best, that's not a bad thing, because that's the point people will try to hold on to, of like, well, if there's no God, there's no morality and everyone would just go around killing each other.
It's like, that
Like,
doesn't
well,
even make sense.
there is a God according to your logic, and that's already happening anyways. Well, they don't accept God. I mean, I've seen the people who accept God and they still do it. Well, they don't really accept God. Okay, do you really accept God? Yes. Do children still fucking starve and suffer? Yes. And do you go to work in the fucking morning and not do anything about it? Yes. Okay, so do you actually believe in God? Like, how do you know you even believe in God if you're not holding yourself to any fucking standard of responsibility at all? Yeah. And then that overwhelming point can come in, and it's like, I understand, like, what it's like. Bernard asked me one time, are you responsible for all the suffering in the world? And I was like, yeah, I guess so. I yeah, I am. And he was like, see, you have a negative view of the word responsibility. He's like, can you actually, and I don't, he didn't actually ask me this next part, but I looked at the point of like, well, can I take responsibility for the starving child in fucking India right now at this very moment? can I change that person's situation? No. What can I do in this moment that would have an effect though? Because what most people would say is like, so that's where the God point comes in. It's like, well, I can't do anything about it. And like you might say, well, look at somebody like Vivek Ramaswamy, like he's taking responsibility, right? Not really, because at the end of the day, if he's saying that the God is real, it's holding in place all of the patterns of the people who are like believing that God is the answer.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, will they step up, or is it about him being the leader? And I'm not saying he's doing it from a point of ego. I'm just saying it's not an actual practical solution. Not to say he shouldn't do what he's doing as a stepping point. You see my point? It's just if your starting point premise is God is real.
I think that point that you started off with of like, well, what does he mean by that? Right, is really the crux of it. Because I was just talking with family yesterday. I was like, hey, so you know the word disinterested, right? And they're like, yeah. I'm like, what do you think that means? Like, do you know that word? They're like, yeah. What does it mean? And they're like, disinterested, like you don't have any, you're not interested,
like uninterested.
And I'm like, so is there a difference? And I asked, is there a difference between the word disinterested and uninterested, or are they the same? And they're like, I don't know. I think they're the same. They're the same word. And I'm like, okay, well, okay. So what if I told you they're different words? They're like, I have no idea what disinterested means then. Right. And I'm like, okay, exactly. Right. And so let's imagine you're hearing a speech where a presidential candidate is saying they're disinterested, and you're like, oh, this guy doesn't fucking care. Right. He's not interested in the things that I'm interested in. Right. And that's how you perceive it. Right. But disinterested does not mean that you don't care or you're uninterested. Disinterested just means you're not biased to the situation. Right. And wouldn't that change the whole context of what they're talking about? Wouldn't that change the way that you perceive them and all that? Right. And so that's a miscommunication that you're having within yourself of just this one word. Right. And so I'm bringing that up in the context of what you're saying, as far as like the way that so many people have been impulsed with God is just literally don't take responsibility. And they don't even realize that that is their definition of God.
It's a savior.
Yeah.
And then you're going to be like, well, people just look at the government like it's their savior. I mean, do you have that pattern at all within you? If so, I mean, what do you expect? Like that's the whole point about the faith thing. If you say you have a right to your faith, then how can you criticize somebody else? And now he said the important point. He goes, you have a right to faith as long as it doesn't hurt anybody else. Okay, well, where is the self-honesty going to stop at looking at where does your faith hurt somebody? Because you can say, well, I believe in God, that doesn't hurt anybody. But someone who believes in transgenderism, that hurts somebody. I'm like, well, let's actually look at a simple point. Does the Catholic Church hurt people?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not even talking about abuse allegations. It's just like the fact that they just take a bunch of poor people's money to build a real estate empire under the premise that these people are going to be closer to God. That's the point. Is the trick is using the God point. Okay. Yeah. When in fact it doesn't do that. What was the point I was making?
Where's the self-honesty and this is hurting?
I was looking at this point too, like the Pope says that God is real, right? So saying God is real, like what are you saying?
You agree with the Pope?
Right. Okay. So you agree with the Pope. Great. Okay. So do you agree with the Pope?
Yeah, I agree with him.
Right? Really? I mean, the guy lives in a fucking palace. He's basically like the emperor of a whole billion people.
Yeah.
I mean,
if you disagree with the Pope, Cam, hey, I have this book. You should read it. It's called The Prince, right? And it's by this guy Niccolo something. I don't know. It doesn't matter. But anyway, he's talking about panini, maca panini, macchiato. That's it. Yeah.
Machado.
Do
you know this person, Christine? Sorry, sea god. Sea god. Sorry.
No relation. No relation. But like, you don't want the Pope as your enemy if you're in that position. Like, you
Mhm.
can have the Pope as your enemy if you are a lowly person who's not in control of others, who's not, trying to control a land. But if you are, actually in a position of power, you don't want to create an enemy out of one of the most powerful people on the planet. You know, that's just I'm just looking at it from the political princely viewpoint. That's how I would do it.
Right.
Just
Like, right? The Pope has not been the most trustworthy person. Like, he's just been a political power figure, right? So it's obvious.
100%.
But he believes in God. I mean, ostensibly, right? So it's just a point where I mean, it's not much really to say else about it other than it's just you see this point where the things don't add up. And now no one's gonna, I won't say no one's gonna question that, but I think he's gonna have a hard time getting those people because what it comes across as is you're not being honest about the point, right? And I understand there's a point if you have to play the political game, like people will say that, but if your starting point premise is something that is not effective, that's number one. I mean, that's a problem, you know. Um, that being said, I mean, show me a person other than us who's going to be honest about the point. So I'll take Vivek over Biden.
Okay,
But then
so
even then you'll see we'll see what happens. Who knows?
I went to look it up.
God,
No, I caved and I used Google to find out. That's pretty funny.
does the Pope believe
How
in
do you
God?
say it?
Atheists' biggest voting bloc, right? And I guess since 2016, the non-religious are now the country's largest. This is by the Washington Post. Pew Research says party affiliation among atheists, that's kind of a different thing. The rise of religious nuns won't save Democrats. That's May of 2023, New York Magazine. Non-religious voters wield clout, AP News, tilt heavily Democrat. So there you go. That's in 2022. And then that CBS has the same exact title.
I mean, that makes sense. Like, people who are not religious are going to vote Democrat because they're openly like, I don't give a shit about religion.
Right. Washington Post, why atheists and agnostics don't believe in voting. That kind of is contradictory. What the fuck? Anyway, apparently
That sounds like some political bullshit. What else can we talk about?
we have a lot to talk about. Okay, so we have AI, guys. Have we talked about AI on this podcast before? I don't think we have.
AI like artificial insemination or artificial intelligence?
I was just thinking
We've
like
talked about both.
I.
Can you artificially inseminate a robot?
Yo.
Okay, let's start there.
I'm guessing at some point we will be able to. That's fucking
Did you guys watch
crazy.
the video or the link I sent you?
Unfortunately, I did.
Which
Real dolls?
one now?
The real dolls?
I didn't see that. I think I found it. You were talking about it on the TT call, and I was like, found realdolls.com, and I was like, whoa.
I saw it on Joe Rogan, and then I was like, because they watched it, but they wouldn't play the video, and I'm like, what is this? What are they showing that they don't want to show it? Right?
Yeah,
but
you can't
it's
show
like it's like explicit. Like, they're like finger banging this robot like on video, and it looks real. Except it doesn't have legs, but I guess that's just like a mock-up.
I don't think you watched Rick and Morty. No, right?
I've seen it.
Okay, there's an episode where they go to a planet, and on this planet, it's like the women dominate the planet.
I think I've seen that one. Yeah,
and then they get like all the men. They give them these fembots so that they can pleasure themselves.
Yeah,
and then they take the insemination from the fembots to then create the next generation or whatever, right? And it's interesting because like that's what this robot is. It's like it's literally just, hey, listen, you are a weak man or whatever that we're not going to do anything with. Here's a robot.
But the thing is they're putting AI in them.
Yeah.
So now, okay, but here's my point though. Remember what you said earlier about whenever there's this new feature, it's really to track you
Yeah.
with Google.
Yep. Yep.
Apply that to everything.
Yeah.
When AI is coming on board in the system,
Yeah.
what is the point? It's to learn your behavior. Like imagine you're Edward Bernays.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you be like, hey, there's this great new thing we can give you that'll help you? In reality, it's like giving you, it's like, what's the word? What are those things they do? Focus groups. It's like,
Yeah.
what if I
Yeah.
could
Yeah.
have a focus group 24/7 on every human being on the planet? And I could
Dude,
just sell that information to fucking anybody who's willing to do it so that we could then fucking market to them even harder. I mean,
imagine.
that's obviously social media.
Okay, imagine like Darwin. What was Darwin
Right
doing?
back.
He was, out on the Galapagos observing different animals because he just wanted to like learn about them, and just like, oh, what are the behaviors that they do? And like, oh, this is so interesting, so different, right? Like, and Darwin just for context came from a family that was like really elite, like super elite family. I don't even, yeah, I can't name all the people that he was related to, but very elite family. Go look it up. Imagine that's how the elite look at us. Like we're just these animals. They're like, oh, and this one likes to eat nuts, and that one likes to watch this weird stuff online or whatever, and like that's how they perceive us. And not only that, it's like, and then we can use this to make money from them. Like, oh, you know what it is? Owen Benjamin's always talking about this with his goats. He's like, this is how they treat us. It's like you get the little feed for the goats, like, hey, and he's always like shaking the feed for the goats. He's like, come in, guys. I got your porn and your entertainment right here. Like, come on. And then you latch them in so they don't move anywhere. And then you take their future from them. And he's like taking the milk. He's like, yeah, you just take their future from them. All their, the possibilities of what they could have been, they're not going to miss it. Like, they got their porn. They're entertaining themselves. They're whatever. And it's like, it's a really funny, but real example of like how we're being used within the system.
And it's like, oh, people, they don't think of you like that. It's like, do you ever go to McDonald's? Is that person behind the counter a human being to you, or are they just a means to an end?
Right. Right.
Like you don't care. You don't care what they've been standing there for 8 hours. Like I've worked fast food when I was a kid. Like I know what that's like. Like it's
I thought you were
fucking
going to go
terrible.
the other route with that. I thought you were going to go the other route with like, have you ever been in a McDonald's? That's not actual real food. Like they're feeding you like,
Allegedly.
no, like apparently some chef sued them, or actually, I think they tried to sue the chef because he was defaming McDonald's.
Wait, so you're saying he was a sous chef?
He was a sued chef. Wow.
But he's still alive, so he was sued vide.
Wow, that was good.
That was a stretch. It's
yeah,
really heating up in here
why?
because of the sous vide. I was trying to keep it going.
Don't entertain him, Mitchell. Don't.
Yeah, if people haven't watched Century of the Self, I know we like back in the day we used to harp on that. Like everyone, you gotta watch this. People gotta watch that. Century of the Self.
Okay, we need to make a list.
I think I have a list. Okay.
Is it a Schindler's?
Check this out.
Yo, yeah. Whoa. What kind of list we talking about? I got Century of the Self, Psy-War, Human Resources, Zeitgeist. Okay, which book list?
Oh, nice.
Drop
hey,
it, Cam.
look at this.
Oh shit.
Wow. This man made a list, like a real list. Okay. I like it.
Only sci-fi.
Wow.
I got these assembled so far. These are the documentaries. I gotta get the Catherine Austin Fitz one.
Which
first one?
The
very first one.
I watched a recent one of hers. Rebecca shared.
Yeah. I didn't see that one yet. Plan a Lockdown though.
Maybe we should put it in the Self-Perfected. Can you make like a post that has like recommended movie list, recommended book list?
Yeah. Christine says she's gonna.
Let's do it like as a post, like a pinned post or something.
Like it's
I don't know, like the best way to do it.
Yeah. Like its own pinned post. I like that. And then it could be like recommended books, recommended movies.
Right.
So if you want to entertain yourself, you're actually learning along the way. I love it.
I will message Chris.
Send it to me too, Cam, because I can make it into something.
Okay, I'll send it to you. Here,
Okay, yeah.
I'll send it to you on Signal just because it's easier.
Yeah,
Right?
Signal. Yeah, that way they don't track us, right? Because Signal's all about not tracking, and we like totally believe that, right?
Yeah, you'll have to click more because there's a there.
Yeah, I got that intense Ronald Bernard one about how the elite functions.
Dude, that is very intense. Very intense. It's a good one though.
Hold on, let me see. Did it get?
What are some of the other there's a few. Oh, John Taylor Gatto, 5 hour. Gotta listen. If someone hasn't listened
that's
to
gotta be a
that,
part of
you're
that.
fucking
That's gotta be a part
you're
of the
missing.
I left
You
one
can
off
watch
for
that
some
one at
reason.
2x speed.
You can, well, I like to listen to
Dude, he
John
talks
Taylor
so
Gatto
slow.
on like
He
1.5
talks
to
so slow.
1.75. Yeah.
On
Yeah.
these, Mitch, it's like it'll have like the author's name, and then below it is all the books or series or whatever. So each like block is an author with books or like series or whatever under it.
Okay, what are your thoughts on the bunker thing?
Except for the
Cam?
last one, I just put. Okay, what's up?
The bunker, the bunkers that all the elite are making.
Dude, that was wild because I knew that Zuckerberg was creating like a fortress or whatever in Hawaii, but I
Yeah.
didn't put the context together of it being like this.
Like why Hawaii burned down?
I just saw it as like a nice place that he wants to live at. I wasn't thinking of it like he's making it so if something happens, he can live there forever, kind of.
It's like it's a self-sustaining thing, and it's apparently got like a city underneath it, like that many people can live in, and that's like, I don't know. I found that really interesting, and then also
I'm not in fear about it, obviously, as like, oh, what is that? Because people, that's what people are acting like. Some I think where it's like, oh, there's something's going to happen. I'm not worried about it from that perspective. It's more like to show this is the people who are creating all the shit that everyone uses. This is how they're thinking about it. Versus Elon Musk, like I got to say to his credit, like I've listened to a few of those chats he's having on X, on the X Spaces thing.
Yeah.
And when they brought that point up, it was before I saw that thing about the Zuckerberg compound, right? And he made this point about like going off to Hawaii, people going off to Hawaii, for example, or like living in underground bunkers and all that. He's like, what, how long do you think you're going to survive like that? Really? If everything collapses, it's like, what's the point? So he's like, I'm not thinking about it like that. I want to just create what's better, create something better. So I thought that was pretty cool. And another thing that was cool too, just since I was on that topic, is that was with the Peter Diamandis and the interview, and Diamandis was asking him about like education, and he was like in total agreement, like it's got to change, right?
Yeah.
And Peter Diamandis was like kind of pushing well, that's why every kid, with AI, like, you can really educate kids.
Oh, we lost Cam to the snowstorm. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I did not like Cameron.
Cam, like you're not allowed to talk shit about Elon Musk, on his Starlink. Do you have a Starlink yet, Mitchell?
No.
He's like trying to pretend to stay like really still. but now he's actually really still. It's even better. But no, I'm really curious about this point that he said about the AI. We'll see what happens there. But while we're waiting for, you're back.
It's really cold here. I don't know if it actually went off and came back on. That was weird.
Oh, okay. But we lost you at the Peter Diamandis was saying he was pushing the like AI is going to really.
Oh yeah. And it was cool because like he gave this whole explanation of, wasn't like a whole long thing, but it was, he was kind of selling people on the idea, trying to sell on the idea of like with AI, what it can do and this personalization and Khan Academy and how you can take people, to the next point of understanding by blah, 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 data analysis and all this. And after all that, Elon Musk was like, yeah, I'm not really sure what the solution is with the education point, but it was like he was not buying into the AI point.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. That's interesting because he also created an AI, or at least it came from his technology, the synthesis AI tutor, right? That's supposed to be like tutoring kids. And I had an opportunity to play on it for a little bit.
What do you mean came from his technology?
Like it's basically like he created some sort of school for his kids, right? Yeah. And then from that idea, started Synthesis Tutor or Synthesis AI, which is an AI that teaches math to kids. right? And I don't know if he's like a part of that company or if they just give him credit, or what the relationship is
I think
exactly.
it's just marketing stuff, but I don't know.
Probably.
Either
I don't
way.
know. But anyway, that AI is like, it's really just like a bunch of videos that are teaching you something, or supposed to be teaching you about math or whatever. And it's like, okay, click, click, click. And then you get something wrong and it tells you how
See,
to get it right.
here's the problem with it. Here's the problem with it. Okay. I was just looking at what's the problem with it. Because when you know something's not right, but it's like you got to figure out what's the point.
I think the problem is kind of obvious.
Well, what do you think? Well, I mean, I'm not saying it's the answer. It's just what do you see as a
I
problem?
think the first problem that I have with it is just like, okay, you realize that AI is biased. Like we know that for sure, for a fact, AI is biased. And so it's biased with whoever is programming it, their worldview.
True.
Right. And so whenever you get an AI, it's going to be influencing your child with
right.
whomever's worldview programmed this
Well, it's
AI.
just math though.
Dude, they're talking about like, okay. I'll give you an example, because I met with this family, a different family. And the mom was like stark Christian. Like, but I mean, like, to the sense where she's like, no, the world's only been here for like 2,000 years. Like,
nice.
That
2000?
kind of, a little over 2,000, whatever it is, right? Like, but only a few thousand. It's not been here for millions of years. Like, they're trying to make you believe in the freaking.
Well, I mean, I agree. But anyways.
Anyway, so in this math tutor, they're teaching about the history of math and how, hundreds of thousands of years ago, the cavemen would use tally marks. And she's like, she's like, yeah, I tell my son that like the hundreds of thousands of years.
Yeah, it's a great point. Like, but everyone's like, well, of course that's true. It's like, okay, well, what happens when it's like, okay, let's count up all the genders and stuff.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Because you say, well, they'll keep that out of it. You can't, because the caveman thing for some people is like the multiple genders thing.
Exactly.
What happens when it's like history time?
Yeah. It's
what is it going to tell you about, like, January 6th or 9/11 or Hitler or whatever, like,
yeah. Is it going to give you this interview with Tucker Carlson and Clay? That's his name.
Right. So it's just, okay. I know you got to go soon, Mitch. So we can keep talking Drake after he's gone.
Yeah.
Get into the real stuff,
Yeah. I mean, we can only go so far.
We keep got to leave early here.
He's got to catch up on his reading.
He's got to catch up with the rest of fall.
I can't even fathom reading all day.
Wait till they upload Dodge's consciousness into the.
Damn, how do you even know who's Dodge?
Yeah. Oh,
are you giving him spoilers or what?
It's like on the front of the book. Okay. What were we talking about?
We were talking about history. What happens?
You're just
prefacing
prefacing me leaving, and then you're gonna go deep.
Damn it. I was gonna say what I see is the problem.
Yeah. Okay. Good.
Okay, because I agree with those points. Like that's a really important point. Another thing is, okay, Albert Einstein didn't have a problem learning math.
Yeah.
Richard Feynman didn't have a problem learning math.
But that's because when he went to
school, he was like, hey, I actually, I mean, whether he likes going on doesn't matter. He was like, I kind of thought school was interesting because I had already read all these books, but then having someone else go through it and show me other ways of whatever, blah, blah. He was like, but I had already gone through all this, so I knew it. And he wasn't saying it in a complaining way, right? But I mean, he was teaching himself math before he learned it in school. He got the textbooks himself and was reading them. So he didn't have a problem learning math. In fact, there's lots of people who either go to school or don't go to school who don't have a problem learning math.
But you're saying they all have
without AIs. An AI. Oh. Without an AI. Yeah. So what's so how is now, and I'm prefacing it like that way for a reason, because when Richard Feynman or anybody else is learning math, and they are stuck on something and not understanding, what do? They
go read it, and then they'll ask for somebody.
But the premise of the AI point is that it's going to know exactly where you are stuck and recommend the next thing to you and so forth. And so what is it taking out of the process?
The very crucial part of you recognizing where you went wrong.
Like, do you see, that's a
Which
big
is
part of education. It's not that you can't have ever any assistance, but it's like totally automating that point where you don't have to fucking think about it ever.
So you know, you used to tell a story of when you were doing math in university and you had a really great professor and you'd ask him like, hey, did I do something wrong here?
Yeah, you'd ask him,
is
do I
this
have the
right
right answer? And he would just be like, I don't know.
Which is like, that is like a basis of math for you to be able to check your own work and go like, does this actually work? As opposed to,
if no one, if people don't have that, how do you know if the AI is right or not?
Right.
Well, somebody knows math, but if they were all taught by AIs, who's checking to see if they fucking know? If the AIs are teaching them right, how do you know? Because you're teaching everybody to like skip the part of like the actual, I have to trust myself here because I have to know for sure it's right, not because an AI said it or anything else. Like I have to know it's right. And the only way you could do that is if you understand what the words fucking mean.
Yeah.
That is the basis of education. I'm not begrudging any of these people who are creating these AIs. They're just jumping on the bandwagon and trying to capitalize on it, but they are creating a bigger problem.
Yeah.
You know, it's like when daycare was invented, everybody just put their kids in daycare. And then they have all these problems because it was convenient. And what did it skip? It skipped the part of the parent actually forming a bond with their child so that they can direct their child, even though that's still hard to do. You can't skip that part. And so the AI problem, the thing with the AI is just going to make it where, you know, it's very similar to you have this app on your phone that navigation stuff, right?
Oh yeah.
But
and
now you don't fucking know where anything is.
So okay,
or you know what I mean? Yeah.
Most young people today, like anyone younger than me, they couldn't tell you where north is. They couldn't tell you. They couldn't read up. If you handed them a map and a compass, they would not be able to get around. Like in fact, they do this. Like there's like one of these YouTubers who goes to Central Park in New York City. They hand people a map of Central Park and they say, okay, show me how to get here without using your phone. And it's fucking like, people are like, I don't know. It takes them so long just to figure out which direction they're heading, where they're actually standing, you know? And so, okay, that's just one aspect. That's just directions, you know? And what's interesting is I can get places because I still remember before we had GPS, when you'd print out MapQuest even.
Or did you ever have, because my dad was is a realtor, and so he had this thing called a key map. I think that's what it was called. And it was like this big book, and it was like page after page of maps of like a particular area, like really detailed maps. And you know, it would say like this page is next to this one, so you could go and find that page.
Yeah.
To know, like, you could take him out if you wanted to or whatever. But it was like really detailed maps of like how to get around a city, like very detailed, right? And of course, they had to be updated and so forth, right? But actually being able to read that.
Yeah. No, I
remember MapQuest too. Yeah,
I remember having like a little like road map like you'd get at a gas station,
like a Rand McNally.
Like yeah, like when you'd go like on a road trip, and you're like, you know, you're like, okay, so we're here, and like you'd ask the gas station attendant like, where are we, and they'd point it out for you on the map, and you're like, okay, cool. So we got to get on this highway, and then we got to make our way over here, and like somebody would like, it was their position in the car to be like, okay, don't forget, we have to get onto, you know, this highway at this point.
And it might seem like, okay, well, we don't have to do that anymore. That's great. And yeah. I agree to a certain extent, like that's cool. But the problem is, what are you not developing anymore?
Do you know what I mean? At what cost?
What you're doing is you're believing in God. You're believing in God. It's the same point, essentially. It's like you don't have the responsibility to know how to get there anymore, right? It's like, you've outsourced that, which to an extent it's fine, but you don't know how to do it. You wouldn't, and so if that technology was lost, you're lost, right? And so it's cool because
or also you can be controlled. Like, what if somebody doesn't like what you're doing and they shut off your access to it?
Yeah,
you're literally lost.
Yeah. Okay. There's a couple of points I want to bring up. I'll finish this one though. But it's like, what's cool about what we're doing, and we talked about this kind of on another podcast of like creating like a renaissance man, like having the ability to learn all these different skills.
Ironically, though, Robin Williams was in that. Oh no, that's Bicentennial Man. Never mind. I was thinking about It's a Robot, but sorry. But yeah, somebody who has actual skills. Yeah.
Right. Like, and they can do all these different things, which in the, back in history, if you were the elite, if you were a lord, you had the time to do those things. You had the time to learn those things because you didn't have to spend all day toiling in the fields. Right. And today, it's like you don't actually have to spend time toiling in the fields, but yet you put your child in a system that's like 8 hours a day. They don't get the opportunity to learn all these things they could be learning. It's not like it's impossible. It's not like, oh, when are we going to find the time to learn all these things? Like you're just talking like it's so unrealistic. No, actually, you literally have 8 hours a day that you're putting your kid in a concentration camp, and you're just like where they are literally being bored to death. So they don't learn anything, and then they don't have any desire to learn when they leave there.
Dude, plus. Yes, Mitch?
I got a one-liner and then I got to jump off.
Go for it.
School prepared you for the past. Technotutor and self-perfected prepare you for the future.
Yeah. Yeah.
Pretty
I like
obvious
it. Just
for
get
us.
rid of the self-perfected part. Or just make it one or the other.
Yeah. Technotutor prepares you for the future.
Or self-perfected, either way.
Perfect yourself before you wreck yourself.
Yes. Okay.
Well, cool. I'll be listening in. I'll be trolling in the comments.
Cool.
See ya.
All right, good.
See ya.
What was the point we were talking about right before that? The future.
Just basically, the point that I was making is you have all this time actually where you can be learning all these things. And so it's not like an unrealistic
right.
ideology, to like
the concentration camp comment. That's what I was thinking about.
Okay, yeah.
Because people might think it's extreme, but it's like, dude, your kid's in school right now. Okay, you're sitting there, right? How do you know some fucking school shooter isn't going to walk into their classroom right now, or today, or tomorrow, or the next fucking day, or whatever? Like, you don't fucking know. And like, you don't know if that's going to happen anywhere in society. So you could say, well, you could be paranoid about all that all the time. Don't even go to the grocery store. I'm not saying, well, I mean, how do we solve that? We got to figure out and get to the root cause of that. But you're deliberately putting your kid in a situation where it's like they are an easy target and it's not necessary. You know, like go to the grocery store, you kind of have to do it. Of course, you don't even have to now with all the AI fucking Uber, whatever.
Yeah,
shit.
You got like, DoorDash or whatever.
Instacart, regardless, Amazon, I mean, those are things where
groceries from Whole Foods.
I mean, yeah, it's interesting because like you can't do anything you want. Like you have to ask permission to do everything. It's like totally
to go to the bathroom, to do your own bodily like functions, you need permission. Like, are your kids asking permission to go pee? Like I don't imagine.
People have a job and they have to do the same thing. I mean, I know they don't have to ask permission to go pee, but they have to ask permission to take a break or something.
Sure.
Unless you have some nice cushy, but white collar.
Again, but literally, school is training you for that position, to be an employee, to be a slave of somebody else, to like have a job.
Did you see that interview with Bill Gates and Sam Altman?
I did.
And I didn't watch the whole thing. I watched clips, but I'm thinking about watching the whole thing,
Yeah. But he's like basically really excited about AI, robots, and AI. And those robots look kind of like, the clothes that they're wearing it almost looks like a person with, a mask over their face.
They have like a hoodie. It's like they're wearing a hoodie. It's like clothing.
It's kind of creepy.
I was talking to Katie about this the other day, and I don't know if I got the point across, but I was like, why do they have to look human?
Yeah. There's something there about that. Like,
to me, it's like they're like, we're going to replace humans. Like they have to look like humans, not because they need to, but it's like but
think about it.
Like this is replacing you.
When
you know what I mean? It'd be like if your wife came home and was like, hey, let me show you this friend I met, and it's like a guy that looks just like you. You know what I mean? It'd be like sending the signal of like, I don't need you anymore. You know what I mean? Like what it's like. Here, look at this robot we're creating. Oh, it's not going to replace humans, but why are you making it look like a fucking human then?
Okay.
Why?
Check this out, because obviously it is going to replace humans, but also like, remember in the robot series, the Asimov series, right? That
See, this is what requires people to actually read.
this is required reading. If you're listening to this podcast,
When you start looking at everything we're doing, it's like we're preparing people to like fucking deal with all this stuff, right? Because they have to be able to see it.
But if you look at that series, they go into a store on Earth, and one of the robots is like, all these robots look really primitive, and it's actually like jarring. Like, why do you have them look this way? It's like, oh, because we don't want people to feel uncomfortable that they're dealing with a robot, you know. But also, it's like, if you think about it, there's something completely different about, you've seen those pizza stores that there's no human in them, and it's just like, it makes the dough and you can watch it through the glass, and you're like, oh, okay, that's cool, that's quaint, it looks like a factory. It doesn't have the same feeling of like a robotic humanoid, thing that's like walking around doing all the different tasks, right? There's something completely different feeling about that, where it's like, you know why? It's because people actually believe that they cannot be replaced, that there's such an advanced technology that they cannot be replaced. But they believe it from the starting point of like, that they're, man, how do I want to put this? It's not, because there is something human that cannot be replaced. But it's not the fact that
it's your gender. That's what it is. That's what makes you.
But it's not.
It's how you fucking feel, Drake.
That's what can't be replaced. It's not
how I feel. That can't be replaced.
It's not even that though. It's not even that can't be replaced, because literally we know that because AI is already telling you about how it feels, and about how like it's basically able to manipulate.
But it doesn't actually feel it. It's just saying it feels it.
Okay, how do you know you actually feel what you feel? Like,
because I fucking feel it. Okay.
But oh man,
isn't it interesting though, that argument of like, it's real because I feel it? It's like you're a robot experiencing a surge of electricity in your body, and somehow that means something. Like, do you even know what it means?
Man, okay, so that's really
cool.
And
it means this. How do you know it means that?
That's really cool with the robot series, because
you know what it's like? It's like the dog going, hearing the ding ding ding, and it's salivating.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's dinner time. See, it's dinner time. It's like, how do you know? Because I'm salivating.
Right.
What do you mean? I'm salivating. It's like, that's because of the bell.
Yeah. What?
It doesn't, the thing you're experiencing doesn't mean the thing you necessarily think it means. It's just a response you're having based on a program that was put into you at some point.
Like, okay, the robot's saying like, it's a pleasure to see you. And then like the humans asking like, do you actually experience pleasure? And like, well,
but that's why they're not human.
Yeah.
Just like when you go to Chick-fil-A, right? And you say thank you, and they say my pleasure. See, in that case, they actually are experiencing the pleasure of serving you.
Right.
That's what makes it so much better than a robot, because I get to enslave a human and they like it.
Yeah.
It's not fun when it's a robot. I mean, they don't suffer.
Right.
I mean, come on.
But they talk about, the robots are talking about like how like I experience these like certain logical things that are happening within me that I'm able to,
like, I can't say it's exactly the same as you experiencing pain, but it's some analogous thing that I experience of pain.
And so to them, that is pain. Right. So that's how
it's like when the information is not flowing effectively, there's like a frustration.
Right. There's a resistance.
It's like they're just explaining to you what you're experiencing. You just think of it as something important and special.
Right. And so where was I going with that point? Basically, what were we talking about just before that? The positronic brains. Before that, we were talking about I lost it. Whatever. You want to talk about something else?
We were talking about the pizza and the robots and the
okay. Yes. Okay. Because you think you can't be replaced. Thank you. You think you can't be replaced, and you think that what makes you special is the emotion. You think that what makes you special is the fact that you can pick up a book and cook a meal and do this and do that or whatever. But it's like, none of that actually makes you unique in any way. you are unique, but it's not because of all those things. It's because you have the responsibility and the capability to direct things within this world.
Thinking that makes you unique is like, there's like, what is that? Why is that valuable? I'm trying to think. It's like I just imagine like crossword puzzles. There's like billions of crossword puzzles, right? They're all
Yeah.
unique, but
Yeah.
they're all the same because they're crossword puzzles. They're not unique
Right.
just because they're different. Like that doesn't
Right.
make them special. It's like, well,
Right.
I'm special because I have this specific pattern of like reactions to things. Like still
And
predictable at a certain level.
it's just because parents are impulsing their children with that idea. And also, I was just watching, it was so interesting. I was watching this woman. Apparently she's like a teacher. I don't know. It was just, a YouTube short. And this woman was saying like, your child, like you need to stop telling your child that they're special, because it's creating this condition where all these children actually believe that they are the most special thing on the planet, and everyone needs to stop and listen to them. Even adults need to stop and listen to them. And it's like they have this entitlement to them where they believe that they're actually superior to everyone else. It's like, yes, your child is special in that they're your child and you love them, of course, but like making them believe that they're special in this like way that nobody else is above everyone else creates a whole society of people that aren't actually considering others because they believe that they are the superior, thing to everyone else, and it was just so interesting to like hear kind of like a common person saying this, and I found it especially interesting because I remember this one time, and I know like when I first met you, you would always tell me like, yeah, we don't tell our kids that they're special, but also I remember this one time specifically where we were in Orlando and this woman came up to Max and she was like, wow, you're so special. And Max is like, I'm not special. I'm not special. And like, he just said it like so matter of factly. It wasn't like this thing of like, don't call me special. It's just like, I'm not special. Like any kid could do what I'm doing if they had the tools, and like, and that had caught her so off guard, that he said like, I'm not special, and he's like, you can do this too. Like,
It's funny though, because a parent would say like they would believe that their kids are special, but then are other people's kids special?
they're special in the same way that you're unique. Like everybody's unique. They're
It's special to
specialty
you
like
because of how you fucking feel. That's it.
because of how you fucking feel, because of the emotions, the positronic
The
brain
problem
waves
with
that you
participating in that
experience.
is it only leads to disappointment when your child does stuff that you don't like.
Mm.
Instead of you being able to empathize with them in that moment and support them and direct them, you're reacting to like losing that feeling of, oh, I thought my kid was the greatest fucking
Yeah,
thing
you're
ever.
supposed to be special. Like, what are you doing? Like,
It's
you're
just, but
supposed
it's
to be
also like a
golden.
feeling of like, oh no, and then you judge yourself. I know I've
Mhm.
had to walk through all these points. It's like, oh, I thought I was supposed to always feel just great about my kid at all times. Now I don't feel that way. It's like, oh, I have to let go of that point
Yeah,
of like
yeah,
needing to feel a certain way about my child instead of it's like this is a responsibility I have. If I participate in feelings about it, I will be manipulated. I will manipulate them. It will just fuck them up and fuck me up and everything. Like, and that's how we
yeah,
get all this. The same thing with God. You feel a certain way about God.
yeah,
We can talk about God when you don't feel like it is when you don't feel something. You know what I'm saying? And that's the problem is it's the feeling. And that's what I was trying to address with the Vivek stuff.
yeah. I know what you're saying with that. I think it needs to be like more clarified for anybody who's listening, because like,
Okay,
um,
imagine you have a car and it's just driving really poorly, okay, and you take it to the shop and they're like, look, um, we need to replace the brakes or something. I don't know, whatever. It's this is the thing that's wrong, and you're like, I just don't want to do that because these brakes are really important to me. I've always had them, and like my grandfather gave them to me, or some this shit like that, and they're
yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah,
do you want your? But now imagine a different scenario. You go in there, you're like, what's the issue? And like, oh, you need to replace the brakes. Like, okay, that makes sense. Let's do that. Okay, now the car drives better.
yeah,
So it's like this emotional thing is preventing us from actually fixing the problems in this world.
yeah.
it's not just one thing. And the God is just like the ultimate linchpin, but it's the way we feel about kids, the way we feel about fucking Santa Claus, the way we feel about entertainment, Disney, the way we feel about school, the way we feel about daycare, the way we feel about our relationships, our marriage, the way we feel about our friendships, the way we feel about drinking alcohol and smoking weed and doing drugs, the way we feel about freedom and free choice, and the way we feel about security. It's like all these different things. We feel all these things about it instead of just being like, what is the common sense point based on the self-honesty of what's the actual situation here and what is the actual solution?
Yeah. Yeah. I was thinking
looking
about
at
this point.
hold on, I was looking at the Israel point,
Uh-huh.
right? And I was looking at this point of Ukraine.
Uh-huh.
And what's the whole problem with why doesn't Russia have a right to invade Ukraine?
Ukraine or Ukraine?
Ukraine.
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 Ukraine. Ukraine.
Me stork. Ukraine.
Okay, Ukraine. Okay.
Right. But like
Okay.
they don't have a right because it's like they have their own country, it's their land. You can't just walk in there and invade them, right? And it's like,
Sure.
but then those same people wouldn't empathize with Palestinians.
Right. Yeah, no.
And it's like, which is it?
Yeah.
No logic, no common sense, nothing.
So it's interesting because
by the way, I think we should give the country back to the Native Americans.
To send all the Native Americans into Israel and Gaza.
I'm afraid they'll just turn the whole country into a giant casino.
Yeah, likely. But it's interesting because if we were to say that, what, man, people feel so strongly about themselves. So this point about like with the robots and everything, if it was another person in your house, you would feel really differently than just it being a robot that looks like a person in your house, right? And I'm bringing that point up because people tend to think like this dead internet theory we talked about on a previous podcast. You tend to think that who you're interacting with online is another person.
It's weird when people say that, like Tim Pool, because I know he's kind of exaggerating a little bit, but he's like acting like everything on the internet is not real.
Right.
And it's like, well, but I'm watching you on YouTube. And you're making videos for people to watch. So do you think everybody is fake? So it's just kind of a funny point. I'm like, clearly they don't mean everybody is fake on there, but
definitely
to the degree that you're interacting online with, especially when you're not seeing the person, even then obviously we know that can now eventually be faked and so forth, but to the degree it's at now, I don't see that actually as real, but yeah, like you're interacting with some comments, you don't know if they're real.
You have no idea. And it's funny
Facebook's because different because it's like I know all my friends. No, I don't know all of them, but
I know a lot of my friends personally, but also a lot of my friends I don't know, and I'm constantly wary, rather, not weary. I'm constantly
probably weary too.
Weary of why are you friend requesting me?
I'm just so tired of this.
Yeah, but I get constant friend requests from like obvious.
Anytime I see like a hot girl friend me,
exactly,
or friend request me, I look at the profile and I see who she's mutual friends with. It's all a bunch of young guys. I'm like, you're not real. Delete.
It's so funny because I
have to look at it like, is this a real person or not?
Yeah. When I look at the mutual friends, I'm like, you guys are fucking idiots. Like, why am I friends with you people? No. But it's interesting because on for the most part, the comments that you see, they're likely a good portion of them are bots, or somebody is paid to,
especially on things like Reddit, Twitter, Instagram, things like that. I mean, I'm not saying it doesn't happen on Facebook either, but like if you have a public page, that's like a big thing with lots of people. Yeah, there's going to be a lot of, and you're interacting with those people. But yeah, so in that context,
yeah, definitely, and it's interesting because it's like it's pretty obvious.
Dude, and how long is it going to be before you're interacting with your friends on social media like a Facebook, where it's like the people, but they just have AI agents that are doing stuff on their behalf, so you're not even interacting with a real person in that sense.
Yeah. Oh man, and see, see, that's the
Did
crazy
you watch
thing.
that? Did you watch that rabbit thing, that keynote?
I did.
Pretty
I'll get
interesting.
to that in just a second. But
Yeah.
like, but I wanted to hit this point, like, of okay, now it's because I don't think we shared this on the podcast yet. Of
You're
how
pregnant?
I'm not pregnant. Um, I'm pregnant of this food because another definition of pregnant is full. Anyway, but what I was going to say is, oh, the point that this particular video that we were watching was saying that um, now casinos, online poker is mostly, or at least on this particular website, is mostly run by bots. And so
Or
you're
regardless of whether it's mostly, there are bots playing,
right. And
and
you're
they're
losing
stealing money.
your money to a bot essentially, who's like not playing the game based on like how another person would play, but based on like certain algorithms that make it so that it's basically impossible for you to beat the
Like
bot.
you ain't gonna win. Like it's like playing chess, and you find out you're playing a bot. If
Yeah.
it's set at a certain level, you ain't
Like
gonna win.
the
Like
ELO
you're
rating
not
is
gonna
like
win.
3,200 and you're like, what am I
You're not gonna
doing?
win. You're just not
Right.
gonna win.
Right. So it's essentially the same thing that's going on here. And it's like, okay, so who are you actually interacting with? And that's like a really clear example of like, that's your money going there. But also that's happening with your opinions. That's what Google's essentially doing, only Google's doing it in a more subtle way of like getting you to vote this certain way or think these certain things about this candidate, or not even candidates per se, but certain people that they don't like. Like they're already doing that, and they've been doing that for over a decade, apparently, where it's just like shaping your opinions and you believe the things that you see online because you're potentially thinking it's another human being. And so that's what I see like really ties in with the
Dude,
robot.
I saw this thing. I saw this meme on Facebook this morning, and it was a picture of those Hasidic Jews,
Uh,
and then in front of them was a sewer, like man cover, like over,
yeah,
and a
yeah.
bunch of children like crawling out of it. And I'm
Okay.
like, is this the new Q conspiracy that like the Hasidic Jews are like freeing the children from the underground pedophile tunnels, or like what is? And I was like, are they Palestinian children? Like I couldn't really understand what is exactly saying, but
You know what I thought you were going to go with this is they're standing over a man cover and then there's like the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and the man cover in the sewers. Yeah. No, and then Jews are joining the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. That's what you got to understand. But no, just like
Teenage Mutant
the
Ninja Turtles.
Ninja Turtles. What was the other thing that you were bringing up that I said I was going to get back to? Of
The rabbit.
oh, Rabbit. Yeah. So that thing actually looked cool because there's
So
that other.
so give some context.
So actually, there's been quite a few people talking about how AI is very close to replacing smartphones, is what they've been saying, right?
And
And I
people have
know,
been saying it's going to be the OS of computers is going to be AI. Right?
yeah,
But
and
that guy was really, he did a good job of laying out why that is the case and why it makes sense.
yeah, definitely, because it's not something that I would see like right off the bat. I'm just like, yeah, obviously AI is going to replace smartphones. Like I didn't see that at first, but also in the Rabbit keynote, the way that he kind of outlines, like you have all these different apps on your phone. You have hundreds of, like, you got pages and pages of apps. One to do this, one to do like call an Uber, one to order your food, one to book a flight, one to like all these different things. It's like, well, what if like those things that you're trying to get done, what if instead you had a device that you could just talk to it and it gets all that done for you? And all you have to do is click one button, because once you go into the Uber app, it's not just, oh, you clicked Uber. It's okay. Now you got to type in what you're looking for. You got to select out of the different options. Once you go onto the food app, the Instacart, you like got to type in like, I'm looking for this food. You're shopping, grocery shopping. And then as opposed to being like, hey, we need chicken. We're trying to make butter chicken. So we need all the ingredients for that. I'm using this recipe. Could you,
Or
you
dude,
know,
like, I mean, I understand your point. I was just thinking ahead of it. Like, you're like, hey, I really liked what we did for dinner last week,
yeah,
and take a look at what we have in the pantry, and you take a picture, and then you're
yeah,
like, you know what we ordered already last week? Can you put together the list and just order all the groceries we need and to do next week? But instead of lasagna, let's have spaghetti,
Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
it's like, done, approve this, and I'm sure at some point you can set a thing where you trust it so much that you don't have to even push confirm.
Yeah.
You can just
Yeah.
tell it
Yeah.
like, no need to confirm, or something like
100%.
that.
100%. Yeah. And so that was
Hey, and
actually
did you notice,
cool.
did you watch the part where he plays music?
Yeah. It's got the headphones.
And then, but he starts
Oh, and
playing
he plays
Kraftwerk.
Kraftwerk. Yeah, he plays Kraftwerk. Yeah.
And like my kids are like, oh, because I was showing him the whole thing, right?
Yeah.
I'm like, dude, we're ahead of the curve all the time.
Yeah. That's so funny. And see that was a really cool device that he had there. And he said something to the effect of like, it's not replacing smartphones right now, but this is definitely like going to replace a lot of your apps on your smartphone. And then, it's
Because
the
basically, if you
direction.
think of it as like you connect all of your apps to it,
Yeah.
like Uber, Instacart, etc., and then you can just tell the thing go do that. Like I thought that was pretty cool. And he was like, "Hey, we're going. I need to get a ride to the airport or whatever." And it's like, "Here's an Uber." And it's like, "Actually, I'm traveling with 3 people and we have a bunch of luggage." They're like, "Oh,
Yeah.
you need this one or whatever."
Yeah.
I thought that was pretty cool. Um, and what's interesting too about it though is that point of you're giving all of this information to an AI that is self-learning
Yeah.
and self-reinforcing. And so at a certain point, imagine everybody on earth is interacting with AIs all the time, all your behavior, everything. What is someone going to do with all that information? What are
This is why
governments going to do with that information? What are corporations going to do with that information? Like, do we really believe that they're benevolent?
that's what I was saying when you were gone for a second. I was just like, that's, when we're looking at like Darwin studying, how these birds on the Galapagos and all that. It's like that's what's going on. Like they're already using that information. We already know that. And there's already that theory of like what's going on Facebook is basically you're giving them the information and they're saying thank you and using that to shape your perception of the world and get you to buy things, of course, obviously, but also like who are you going to vote for? And there's these fringe groups on Facebook that are, they're echo chambers for Russian collusion, blah 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 blah. Right? It's like it's crazy because you're so predictable. Oh, you know what we didn't talk about? The KGB thing, right? With Yuri, like it's just the point being that
Well,
this
the biggest point
KGB.
within that was the demoralization thing.
Well, that's a big point, but
Yeah.
also, I think where he blatantly just says in 1983, he's blatantly saying, we know that you're programmed in a way that we can say these certain things, it'll trigger this effect within you, and you're not going to listen to reason or anything because you're going to listen to your program. That's how we
I
program
mean,
you.
if that wasn't the case, then there would be no such thing as advertising.
Right.
Because advertising, everyone knows, is not, here's what it is. It's
Yeah.
not advertising. Like, watch any fucking like makeup ad or pharmaceutical ad
Right.
or liquor ad or anything. It's not like, here's an alcohol, it makes you drunk.
No,
No, it's like you're at a party and then you see
it
all the
makes you
people,
sexy.
whatever. Like,
Yeah.
it's play on emotions, have nothing to do with the thing itself.
It gets you laid. It makes you money. It does this. It's like that's all it is.
It gets
Yeah,
you laid, it
exactly.
gets you paid.
That's it. That's it. And so it's interesting because like he's saying it blatantly, and I think that's just something that people are just unaware of, or they think that it's like some conspiracy or some like fringe thing, but they've been saying this out loud since the 1980s at the very least, you know. And so the fact that you
Yeah.
don't know that
That's why you
just
should watch The Tree of the Self if you haven't. I mean, Jesus.
yeah, the fact that you don't know that just shows like your lack of
But they kind of
intelligence.
really figured it out in like the what 20s, I suppose, in
Yeah.
terms of it being able to be mass done. But that's only also because of the technology. Like, if you really look at it, newspapers and television and radio and so forth enabled the ability to reach people, a lot of people, all in a short period of time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And also the invention of the printing press was necessary to be able to mass produce newspapers, for example. So before that,
And
how would you do it? They would just use force, and they would use the concept of God in churches or whatever religion. That would be the way they could influence people all at the same time, because you had one book that one person read from, and it justified that this king was the ruler and so forth, right?
and that point about force is so important too, because like literally to get schools or people to accept that their kids had to go to school, they would use the local militia to like at gunpoint, like your kid's going to school. Like you don't have a choice in this. Right. And so it's like, and now because they have schools and it's mandatory, they don't have to use force in the same way. It's like, no, we just indoctrinate you at the school. That's it.
It's kind of like
it's
with
like
the masks. They didn't really need to force a lot of people, because people just went along with it because they didn't want to feel shame of not
shamed.
doing it,
Exactly.
or fear. Yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting that point of like, I've been looking at the point of, in the old days, or at least what we learned in our history books. We learned in our history books about slavery in America. And we learned that the slaves were not taught to read so that they wouldn't be educated, so they couldn't challenge their masters. Right. And it's like, okay, so we know that. And we look at the world today, and the vast majority of people cannot read, or cannot read beyond like a fourth grade level. Right.
But
And
Bill Gates can read,
yeah, exactly.
and he didn't have an AI.
Right. Yeah. And beyond that, it's like, if can you imagine that perhaps your grandparents, maybe even your parents, were educated in a way that what they believe to be education is nowhere near the mark, and they don't know what education actually is? Would they be able to recognize it when they saw it, or would they be able to effectively guide you as a child into education?
It's kind of like if you took a bunch of young people now and we're like, can you identify um like which of these foods is actually nutritious for you? You know what I mean? But like they're just like, but it doesn't look like a McDonald's hamburger. You know what I mean? It
Right, right,
looks more
right.
just like not that good, but it actually is really tasty and nutritious or something.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
It's like
Like,
it's like bread. If you make bread at home versus you buy it in the store,
bruh,
why does it last in that bag and that once you buy from the store for like weeks and it doesn't go stale?
dude.
Versus like real bread, it gets hard and kind of not stale, but
By the end
like
of the week, it's
you're
like,
like you got to use it,
yeah.
toast it
It's
or
same thing
something.
with milk. Same thing with milk. Like raw milk, like by the end of the week, it's starting to smell sour. You know, whereas like with milk that you get on the shelf or at the store rather, it's like that stays. Literally, I went and bought milk the other day because we ran out of milk. So I went and bought milk from the store, and the expiration date was like February. So I'm like, what? How the hell are they getting the milk to last this long? And it's like, um, from okay, you have the raw. It'd be like you have raw milk, you have the grocery store milk right next to it, and then you got like like I don't even know what else you'd have, almond milk, right? And it's like, which one of these is actually the most nutritious for you? And like I think the vast majority of people would be like, oh, the almond milk, obviously, or maybe the grocery store milk,
It's actually like
right?
terrible for you.
Yeah, right. Right. It's the almond milk that's got all the like preservatives and all that bullshit. It's like shelf stable, but it's
It's cool. Like we went to get some gasoline the other day, and I took the kids with me so that we had some for the generator. And they were like, "Can we get a snack in the store?" And I was like, "Sure, but we have to agree on it, because there's a lot of junk in there, and it's going to be junk regardless, but we have to at least agree at some level on it." And it was cool because Seneca went and she found the pack of Skittles, and she was like, "What about this?" And Max said, "Let me see." And he looked at it. And he goes, "Don't you remember we saw that thing about how it has a lot of toxic ingredients?" And he's like, "Look, it's got yellow 5." And he starts reading it and everything. He's like, "This is not good." It's just really cool because they can discern that. You know what I
yeah, yeah,
mean?
yeah, yeah. That's really cool. That's
It'd
really
be
cool.
like also imagine in the future you have a sex bot and then you have a real woman. you know, and it's like, which one of these is a relationship partner or whatever, you know what I mean? I don't know what the word would
You're
be, you know
like
what I mean?
clearly the sex bot because
And you're like, I don't know, whichever, it doesn't matter, you know, or yeah, or that, or it's like,
it
dude,
would be
it's like the raw milk thing. It's like, wait, you have sex with a raw woman?
yeah, it would be clearly the sex bot is the one that's like, a real relationship because they actually have all the pleasure, programs within them that a real woman can't actually do. It's like, oh, okay. Like that's what it's gonna come down to, especially because
See, but what's going to happen is people will start to feel like, oh, it's not real. So they'll have to adjust the programming. So like every once in a while, the robot will be like, hey, why don't you take out the trash this week? Why are you always playing video games? Go get a job. And then after you get a little bit tired of that, and you're like, all right, switch to happy mode. And she's like, oh, you're so brave the way you fought that dragon.
I'm so sorry that I yelled at you earlier. How can I make it up to you?
And
It's
you're
funny
like, you go to
because
have sex with the robot, and it's like, sorry, it's my time of the month. And you're like,
you're
hold
like,
on, let me go reset the clock
oh.
here. Set it back. Okay.
Oh, sorry, I must have been mistaken. Like, but it's literally like how a lot of young men right now believe that what they see in porn is real. Like they actually believe that's real sex. Not that they believe that the situations are real, but that's what they're
It's not
expecting
okay.
or
Right.
wanting.
It's not, it's
When,
just like the milk thing. It's not that they believe it's real. It's just they think it's like that is real to them, if that makes sense. Do you see what I'm saying?
I don't see the distinction that you're making.
Like, well, it's just like a subtle point, but it's kind of like, oh, they think that it's real. It's like almost somebody would probably be like, no, they don't think that's real. Like they know it's not real. It's like,
No, that they actually believe that.
but
Like they
yes,
don't
but
know
what
any
I'm just
different.
emphasizing, I'm just emphasizing the point that it's because they don't know any different that is the reality of it. It's not that
Okay,
they are
I agree.
thinking it's the same as the real thing.
No.
Yeah, yeah.
That's
No, no,
that
I'm just
it
clarifying. I
is
know
the
you
real
don't mean
thing to
that.
them. They
Right.
don't know what the real thing
The
is.
real thing is not in their experience at all. And that's kind of my point too. It's like
It,
you lose the ability to even identify what is the real thing.
especially okay, it's not even that they lost the ability to identify it. It's like they've never experienced that. Like
Right.
most young boys are being exposed to porn when they're 9 years old, around that age, you know, which is super fucking young. They're clearly not having sex at that age, you know? And so this is their first experience with, and likely their parents have not even explained sex to them yet. Right. And so who was saying this? Oh, I was talking with Abel yesterday, and he was like, yeah, there is apparently these women streamers who, when you look on their YouTube or whatever, it seems really innocent. It's just some woman playing video games, whatever. And they attract a lot of young boys to watch them playing video games. But in their links in the description of the video, you click on it and it also has a link to their OnlyFans. And so
Yeah.
here's a young boy who's like 13 years old or whatever, thinking that he's just watching this woman play video games and he's like really into it. And he goes to like find out more about her. And then he clicks on the link and like all of a sudden he's just stumbled upon her OnlyFans. He's like, oh. And like to him, it may seem like maybe that was a mistake. Maybe she doesn't even know that it's up there because she's not saying, like from what I understood, she's not like openly promoting her OnlyFans. And so what's that boy going to do? He's going to definitely check it out. And he might even send it to his friends like, dude, check this out before, she takes it down and she realizes what she's done. And then like, that's their first experience with sex. And so then by the time their parents get to them, or if their parents even do talk to them about it, by the time they're getting some other form of education on this point, they already have a whole perception of what is sex. And everything now gets filtered through that. And so they're not even they don't know what is real. By the time they actually have sex with another person, their expectations and the reality is completely at odds, And I don't see how it would actually be satisfying.
I was just looking at this point because while you were talking, I was like, you mentioned that point about they have the link to the OnlyFans. So I was curious, like if you go to the OnlyFans like website, like what do you see? I mean, I know it's not gonna be the same as when you click on their profile, but I'm like, I wonder if you click on onlyfans.com or whatever the website is, like what do you see as like the presentation of what it is?
Mhm.
And because I want to see, is it like sexual or is it just generic? You can't tell what really is behind inside of it or whatever. And like it wouldn't load. Like I searched on Google OnlyFans and then like the website wouldn't load. And I was like, that's weird. Maybe my internet's out, but you're still talking. So I'm like clicking other links, they're all working. And I was like, why isn't that loading? And then I was like, oh. So I went to look at my settings for the Starlink and I had turned the content filtering on. So it doesn't show
Oh,
adult
that's cool.
stuff, right? And I'm
That's
like,
cool.
oh fuck, it actually works. I mean, I don't know
What
how it
happened with the real
decides if
dolls thing?
OnlyFans. Oh, that was on my phone.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's cool. Well, Elon's looking out for you, at least to some
Yeah. Well, I
degree.
turned it on, so that's pretty cool.
So I'm looking out for me. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's cool.
Yeah. I wish somebody had been able to support me more when I was younger to not be exposed to that stuff.
It's interesting.
And that you can only limit it so much because even you go outside, like an advertisement is designed to be sexual, even though you
Yeah.
can't overtly
It,
see it.
it's very interesting because I grew up in a very religious, I would say, setting of like just going to church all the time, even like on Wednesdays. Like it's not even a Sunday. I'm going to church. I'm going to the youth group or whatever. And I was really submerged. I was underwater. I was underwater with this church thing.
It was in a submarine.
I was really immersed in it, right? But
Did you worship Neptune?
uh, yeah, and sometimes we'd go so deep we'd worship Pluto. I'm
I
just
go
saying.
deep on the Lord.
But it's interesting because I had a lot of sort of the adults around me like you shouldn't watch porn and all this stuff, but it was more just like a lecture than an understanding.
Yeah.
It was more just like here's another adult telling me like I'm sinning and I know the Bible says this whatever, but it's like I didn't understand any of
But
it.
also, why not? Like, why does the
Right.
Bible say that? I'm
Exactly.
listening. I'm just gonna go out here real quick. I'll be right back.
Yeah. Like to me, it was just like I don't understand. Like I know it's wrong, and that's pretty much the context that I got, and it's especially for a lot of minorities, I would say, uh, the context that you get is I told you it's wrong, or because I said so, and you're just supposed to listen to that as opposed to like getting an explanation and then an explanation that's actually coherent, that actually makes sense, and so from my understanding, it was mostly like, yeah, I get that this is wrong, and I'm not supposed to be looking at this stuff. But then it was just like, then it just makes you feel guilty and all that. Nothing explained from the context of why this is not even real, first of all, and the emotions or feelings that you're participating in and how that energy is like really drawing you in. None of that is actually really broken down in a way that is accessible for and in their defense, I didn't have the vocabulary for it either to understand it, but it was just all this like,
But
it was
that pattern
confusing.
of parents, that pattern where it's like, you should just accept it because I said so, because I'm the authority, because I'm your parent.
Yeah.
It's like working into your disadvantage in this context to think
Yeah.
like that, because it's like, well, but why? Because I said so. It's like, but that's not good to say that, because now they're not going to understand and then they're just going to do it because they're just going to feel like, well, I'm just being told not to do it. Like that's not
Right.
people do things or don't do things because they understand and see why, not because they are. I mean, I'm not saying they won't do it out of fear, but problem is if you switch the context, they didn't understand.
Yeah.
You know, I was watching this thing. Uh, it was about this. It was from Abba and Preach, and they were talking about this woman. She was on a podcast with her dad, and I guess she's relatively successful on TikTok, and also the father's successful. I don't really know who they were, but she was on the podcast telling him that she's starting an OnlyFans. And she was like, but I'm going to be, kind of, there's a assets that I have, and I can, I'm thinking like a business person, and, I want to do some modeling, and, obviously I have boundaries, and, keep it, a certain level of classy or whatever. I mean, he was just like, like I'm your father, and I love you, and I respect you, and you are an adult now. And, but I'm just thinking about, like when in the future, if you want to do other things, or there may be some point where it like kind of, because you did that, it might, what I mean? Like, let's say you want to run for president or something,
Let's say
he was
you
like,
want a husband who doesn't want, a woman
but he
that
wouldn't even
everybody's
explicitly
seen.
say that. It was like, it was so interesting because he wouldn't just be like, no, that's
Yeah.
stupid. Like, don't do that. He wouldn't
Yeah.
do that. And he wouldn't be like, there was no point where he wanted to judge her at all.
Maybe because
You know what I mean?
he
Like, I could
knows,
see it.
maybe
Like, he
he
wouldn't just be like,
knows
no,
that she
first of
would
all,
rebel.
that's totally unacceptable. Don't do it. Like, here's the reasons why. Look at what you're supporting. Look at what you're participating in. Like, this is
Yeah.
not best for you or anybody else. It was just
Yeah.
like, it was like purely, I'm just thinking about your future. And, maybe it might come back to haunt you in some way that you don't understand now. That was it.
Right.
And I'm like, dude, your job as a father is to be like, and the one guy was on there like, well, he wants to be like the understanding father, and it's good because you can't just control your children, and you can't use the same tactics of because I said so anymore. You have to use different parenting strategies or whatever, because they're not a baby anymore, they're not a child anymore, even though they are your child. And it's like, I understand that if I say you should not do this or do not do that, the person doesn't do it because I said that, because I'm an authority, but I'm just telling them. It's like, okay, let's say you're studying to be an electrician, and you're studying
Yeah.
from a master electrician, right?
Yeah.
And you're like, hey, should I connect these wires? Now, he could be like, no, you should not do that. That will hurt you. It is,
Right.
or it's just a mistake. That won't be good. And then you could be like, why? And he'd be like, because let me explain why. Okay. Or he could be like, I mean, hey, it's your choice. Like, which would you prefer? Now,
yeah, explain why. Yeah.
if he says no, don't do that, or you'd be like, well, I'm just not going to do it. I'm not going to ask any questions. Like, that's stupid.
No, you'd want to know why.
So the idea that, well, if you just tell them they shouldn't do it, that's just controlling them. It's like,
right.
No, that's what they're looking for you. They're looking for your guidance.
Right. They want to,
and
like,
even if they're not looking for it, that is your responsibility. And obviously,
Yeah.
doing it in a way where they can hear you is better, versus they just react and don't listen to what you're saying. So, and you can't control that necessarily. But it was, do you see what I'm saying though? It's like,
yeah.
But the problem is if you just go, well, it's your choice, but really that's not what you actually think. Why didn't you
Right.
just say what you actually think? It's like, well, I didn't want to hurt their feelings. That's all it comes down to.
Yeah.
Or I'm afraid if I say what I think, then they will just do it anyway.
Rebel.
Well, they're gonna do it anyway.
Yeah.
Like, that was the whole point.
Yeah.
So it's like not wanting to take responsibility for your decision and how it influences another person,
Yeah. It's really significant because, again, it's going back to like,
well, okay, with our kids, right? They know it doesn't make sense to drink alcohol.
Uh-huh.
We're not sitting here judging people and being like, oh, people who drink alcohol are so bad or this or that. We're like, here's what it is. It's a chemical and it affects your ability to do X, Y, and Z. Some people drink it because it makes them feel, they would describe it as a good feeling, but really it's just, and we give the context of, it's a feeling of like being uninhibited and feeling like you're able to say what you want to say or do or be comfortable. And, you explain that to Max and it's like, he's like, why would they feel uncomfortable talking to people?
Yeah.
Right. As an example, it's like,
Yeah.
He'll just talk to anybody. So he doesn't have that need. Well, they feel it helps them not have stress anymore. Like, why would they feel stress? Well,
Right.
because they're going to work and to a job there, and they're wanting to relax. They're like, why aren't they just relaxed? Why don't they just relax? Why don't they just do something fun?
Right.
Like,
how would
so
the
he could
average
see
person,
by explaining it to him. Go ahead.
how would the average person get to that point? They go like, well, honey, you'll understand when you get older, you're also going to experience a lot of stress, and because you're going to have to get a job and like, yeah, exactly.
So it's like we explained the points. But I also don't hide the point of like some people, they like it they enjoy it from a certain perspective. And here's what I mean by that. But here's the consequences of, even in the point of enjoying it, here's the consequence of it, and so forth. Right. And so as much as we can, we're supporting them to understand and see why it doesn't make sense. Because when I was a kid, I was just told not to do it.
Right.
But everyone was drinking.
I was not told that as a kid.
But I know, but I'm saying everyone was drinking, but saying also
Yeah.
I shouldn't drink it.
Yeah.
And it's like, only when I get to a certain age, maybe I can do it,
Yeah,
and it's like, just don't do it. And here's why.
Yeah.
So that's the approach that we take. It's not just difficult to explain something, but that's why then you go back to the vocabulary point.
And it's interesting because, like, with a lot of adults, they'll justify the point because they want to keep drinking, because they don't want to, like, and if you bring up the point of like, well, why are you drinking? It feels good. Okay. But like, it feels good. Why? Because you're trying to escape something, like for me, it became really obvious to me at a certain point of like, I don't want to be inebriated, when I have kids, especially when I have kids. I didn't want to be inebriated before, but especially when I have kids, like, because you want to be there for your kids at all moments. Like, when are you going to go get drunk? When they're sleeping? Okay. And then they wake up in the middle of the night, they need you, and you're like, I can't fucking, I have a headache. Okay. Well, maybe you're like, well, I don't get drunk. I just have like a drink here or there. Like, the very first thing they tell you, whenever, you take any sort of drinking course or whatever, not drinking course, but like a driving course or anything like that, is like drinking
and driving course.
Drinking and driving course. Those are the courses I've been taking.
All right, everybody, take your shots. We're getting hitting the road.
Let's go. Let's roll. The very first thing they tell you is that with the very first touch of alcohol on your lips, within less than a second, it's impairing your judgment. It's already affecting those centers of your brain where it's impairing your judgment. And so it really becomes a question of like, how impaired do you want to be? Let me ask it this way: how retarded do you want to get?
Just a little retarded.
Just a little.
Will.i.am or Fergie? On a scale.
I don't know which one's stronger. Which, by the way, I saw that the other Fergie, was implicated.
The Duchess.
On the Epstein list. Yes.
The Duchess you talking about?
Yes, exactly.
It's like,
yes.
I still don't know which one you're talking about.
Yeah, no, I'm talking about the Duchess.
Which one?
They both go by the Duchess. That's right. Hilarious.
The one with the red hair. Actually, do they both have red hair? I don't think so.
No, Fergie, she's got more of like a blonde hair.
I was thinking it was like a purplish red or something, but I don't remember what she looks like
that way.
I don't know.
But yeah, no. But no, I only recognize that name because of the podcast that we did where we brought it up. But yeah, basically, like, how to what extent do you want to impair yourself? To what extent do you want to hold yourself back? And why? Why do you want to hold yourself back? Like, I remember as a child, I used to want to go, and if we were doing something, especially doing something new, like in football or something like that, I was always wanted to be like the second one to go. I never wanted to be the first because I didn't know how to do a lot of these things, and I didn't want to like embarrass myself and then all the other kids laugh at me. Right. So I always wanted to see somebody else doing it and like, okay, they showed me how to do it. I can do it. I wanted to be first actually, but I was afraid. Right. Yeah. And it's like, to what extent do you want to hold yourself back in everything that your whole life, like, and why are you holding yourself back? What are you afraid of? Like, what are you trying to avoid? In the context of like, when you drink, it makes you feel loose. Why are you not loose? Why are you like, what is the tension? Why are you not? Ooh, I was just talking about this with a friend of, we have these friends that they're our age, early 30s, and they are in relationships, long-term relationships that they've been in for, I don't know, 8+ years, right? Not married. Maybe they live in the same house, but like no kids, no intention of getting married anytime soon or having kids anytime soon. And I'm like, what are you doing? Like, you're both in your early 30s. Like, now is the time. Your window is closing. Like, what do you think is going to happen? And we were just making the observation of like, these friends will go to a lot of these like festivals. And so like, all the energy that gets built up when it comes to like the tension that they might feel between each other, or when it comes to like realizing that, oh, you know, we're getting closer to, you know, our biological clocks are ticking. Are we going to get married? Or should we separate so that we can find people to actually marry? Like, you know, all that tension that gets built up then gets released at going to a festival, because like, oh, okay, we had this great time. All right, cool. And then like they can repeat the cycle over, and it's a reset for them, you know? And I see that that's happening, like not just in our friend group, but in so like across the board. That's what's going on, you know? And that's what's happening every weekend that you go out and you drink and you smoke or you whatever. It's like you're resetting on a small scale, like all the tension that's building up, that's telling you something. It's telling you like, you got to change. You can't keep doing the same thing. This isn't working. It's telling you like, you need to grow, you need to expand. Like, if you're not facing that tension, actually, man, you know how many people can't write today? You know, like they can't take a pen to paper, or, you know, get on their word processor or whatever and write out the things that is going on within them.
Oh, and you think that's going to get better or worse with AI?
Fucking worse. Bro. Not to,
You know, also, hold on real quick. Here's the other thing about the AI point with the math
yeah,
is, and you kind of alluded to this with the professor story that he told, but it's like math isn't just someone tell me these facts.
yeah,
It like there, the actual process of learning math is very little to do with the teacher actually.
yeah,
It's more to do with the student and the material. And so the AI part, and this is why, going back to this real quick, it's like with our kids, we're giving them the vocabulary. If you want to add the AI and all these other fun things or books, I mean, you could just read the book. Like, you don't, if you have the vocabulary, that's why I was trying to say, like Bill Gates and these people, they didn't need an AI because they had vocabulary and they could think, and they had some internal motivation at some level to study it.
yeah,
And so the problem with the AI is it's covering all that up. It's like, oh, the problem is just these kids aren't getting that one-on-one attention. It's like, no, they don't have the vocabulary, and no one is sitting and actually supporting them as a person of guiding them and explaining to them why. Instead, you're just going to get an AI to do it. So you're literally just going to be like, just, you know what? Talk to the robot.
yeah,
Like, dude, you know what it is? It's like, it's going in the wrong direction. It's like, imagine, well, I mean, this is not even to me, it seems like a hypothetical, but it's not a hypothetical. Imagine you have the robot and the kid's like, mommy, check this out. Look what I did. And you're like, yeah, go show it to, you know, R2D2 or whatever the fuck, you know what I mean? Like,
dude, that's already
isn't that
happening.
what the
Like,
iPad and all that shit is?
we've seen the, that AI robot that, like, we've seen the commercial for it, for the kids to like, oh, draw this, and then like they're showing what they drew to this little like toy robot thing,
like that Moxie thing or whatever.
exactly that. And the robot's like, oh, great job, you know, I love
It's
what
like,
you did there.
good job, you are great.
Yeah, exactly. It's obviously no kid's
like,
gonna go for that.
They don't want to make it too enthusiastic and make your parent feel like a total asshole, because imagine it's like every time they talk to the robot, you're like, you are so amazing, I love you, and they go talk to the parent, they're like, oh yeah, how was school? They're
right.
like, I like the robot better than mom.
So
the kid falls down and the mom's on her phone, the robot's like, oh honey, let me help you.
Yeah,
it's okay.
Yeah. Eventually where we're going to go is, you know,
dude,
like,
and then at night the mom's sitting in bed like on her phone just watching all the footage of like the robot interacting and like seeing the child, like the mom puts on virtual reality and like gets to like watch the experiences of the robot like playing with the kid, and like only knows the kid through that.
It's also got like a haptic feedback. you know, like the tactile, like where you can feel the hugs and like, like you're laying down in bed, you feel
Dude,
like you just hugged.
the crazy thing about that robot stuff, because there was one of these videos about the robots. They made this point about it was one of those humanoid ones that like you'll be able to switch into VR mode.
Oh yeah.
Which I was like, oh, I never even thought. I mean, it's like not an obvious point I thought about in this context,
But
but
not just
imagine
VR
you have
mode.
this humanoid robot that
Yeah,
can automatically do things, but then when
yeah,
you want to, you can take it over and you can
yeah.
fucking be the robot.
Right.
Holy shit. I mean, that's like that movie Surrogates and everything. It's already been talked about, but I just like I didn't connect it as they're coming out with humanoid robots now, and you'll also be able to do that with these ones. It seemed more like a future thing. You know what I
Right.
mean? I'm like, no, you'll be able to do it right away.
Yeah.
Which
That's
was part
crazy.
of the whole thing in fall too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
What do they call them? Like telepresence, right?
yeah. Like, but only one person was using that, really. Like the
Don't spoil it for Mitch. Mitch, when you watch this years from now, when your AI assistant is going back through these later, and what did I miss from the podcast? And then it's like
oh
2037.
spoiler. No.
2037. What's the guy's name?
Yeah.
L Shepherd uses
Uh,
telepresence. And he's like, huh?
damn it.
No, you know what it
Yeah.
is. He's going to talk to his AI agent. He's like, what are all the times Drake and Cameron talked about me when I wasn't on? I've compiled a list for you.
It's all about the fall. It's all about fall.
You won't even have to read it. We're basically giving him an audiobook version.
It's that's the direction he's going anyway. He's like, yeah, so I'm just skipping over words now, and like I'll figure it out. Well, why don't we just tell you the book, Mitch? That's good. That's good.
We jest.
Yes. Um, is that all of it? Did we get all the gravy out? No,
I think so.
no,
No?
no. There's more. There's more. There's more.
There's more gravy in your ladle.
There's more gravy in my ladle. Just one more thing that I remembered, and that was this. Man, okay, I'll just say at this point. Have you been seeing that when Benjamin has been posting about Indians this past week? You know,
I don't follow him anywhere. Yeah.
okay. So he's on. Well, never mind.
I just don't use any of those apps. Yeah.
Yeah. But he, it's funny because this past week, you know how he'll like go at a person or go at a group for a little while, like for a long while. It was like,
Yeah.
geez.
And people tell him to stop, and so he goes further with it.
Yeah. He just like he doesn't stop. He goes harder. Well, this past week has been Indians. I don't know how it started, but like
Like what kind of Indians?
like the Indians over in Pakistan, like you know, the Pajeets is what he's calling them, right?
The Jeets.
And it's funny
The
because
truck drivers.
I guess.
Dude, I'm telling you, next time you come, like you'll see, look at the truck stops around here. They're all fucking Indian restaurants.
Really?
Yeah, and like all the trucks, it's got like Punjab Trucking LLC and stuff, and it's like an Indian dude driving. It's crazy.
Wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
and it's like it's a thing. I looked it up, or I saw some video about it or something. I don't remember, but it's like a thing.
I didn't know this.
Yeah.
Apparently he's like he made some joke. Indians got offended by it, and then like they started attacking him, and then he just went harder on the Indians. And it's crazy because it's like exposing a lot of these points of like one of the things that he's saying is like, you know, when the Jews make up a story and like, you know, he's saying in the context of like, you know, they're trying to control you or whatever, and they spin a narrative. He's like, it at least sounds plausible. That's how they get you. It sounds like plausible, like, oh, you know, we're the victims because of this and this and this. And you're like, you want to empathize with it.
Dude, it's like that thing Kevin Hart saying that Cat Williams lost all his opportunities because he was like smoking crack or something or on drugs.
Yeah.
Cat Williams was like even do drugs like at all, right?
Right.
So, but it's like, but he made this point. He goes, since Richard Pryor was the top comedian and was on crack, then them saying that about me sounds like it's possible.
It sounds possible.
So
Yeah,
it
yeah,
just
yeah.
is an example of that. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, no, that's right.
Dude, the whole industry, I know we're not, I'm going to top for a second, but like the whole thing about Kevin Hart being an industry plant, like so obviously fucking true, man.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So fucking obvious. It was just really interesting, that whole drama thing that's going on there, but it's fascinating what it's exposing.
It was interesting because when Kevin Hart became popular, I was like, but he's not that funny.
I know. It came out of nowhere that suddenly he was like this top guy, and you're like,
Yeah.
you know, it's like
I couldn't understand it. I was like, why do people like this? Like, why is this so funny? Like,
you
I
look
could
at it
see,
and
like,
you're like, this is for stupid people.
yeah, like there are some things that I was like, that's funny. Okay, I get, okay, cool. But for the most of it, I was like,
I'm not saying he's not a comedian.
right.
He's just not a,
It,
you know, he's not Mitch Hedberg. He's not fucking George Carlin. He's not.
He's not a ha
Yeah.
ha he. He's a okay, all right, yeah, that's funny, I guess. Like
It's
I
like
wouldn't
common denominator or lowest common
even
denominator.
put him on the same level as like Dave Chappelle. You know, Dave Chappelle's like fucking, I laugh out loud hard a lot of times listening to Dave Chappelle. And I don't even think he's like the funniest. I just think he's like, that's a comedian, you know.
Hey, will you shut the door, Senna?
Hey Kai. What's up, Kai guy? Hey
Hold on, I
Kai.
can't hear you. Hold on. Let me see if I can
Hi, Caius. Hey, Caius. Where
Oh wait, you still can't hear me.
is
What's going
oh,
on here? Select a
you can't hear
speaker. Same. Okay, here we go.
hey, Seneca, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, Seneca. Hi, Caius.
That's
Hey,
great.
Caius. Where is your nose? He's just listening. He's like,
He's like, what is this TV show I'm watching?
he's like, this isn't live. This isn't real time.
Your nose cut. You want to say where your nose is? Yeah. Firstly, what I do in the morning is I say, "Can I ask you some questions?" And he'll
Okay.
Yes, or he'll be like, "No."
Okay. Hey, Caius, can I ask you some questions? All right. All right. Where is your ears?
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. All right, I'll leave you.
It's just,
Yeah.
that's what's funny when you try to get the kids to do something on camera is like they just like see their reflection and they're like trying to talk and they're like suddenly they're just like oh, and I didn't know.
Who is that character? It's funny how like you can recognize yourself, right? Like especially at that really young age. Like Hazel right now looks in the mirror and she'll smile at herself. She'll see herself and she'll smile. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is it cold over there, Seneca?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really
That's
cool.
Yeah, and like when it gets cold out here, like the electrical doesn't work as well, and so I looked it up because it's like a thing, but it keeps tripping, so the heater won't stay on in here.
Oh.
It'll be on if it's not cold.
When you don't need it.
Right. Yeah. So it's like for the past 30 minutes, it started getting really cold in here. I'm like, whoa. Feel it.
Sorry about that.
No, that's what it is.
It's already getting good.
Yeah. I mean in this room though. Yeah. It's starting to get really cold in here.
All right. Well, I'll let you go because we gotta hop back on here in like 20 minutes.
Yeah, we got another call. For all
Hey,
of
do
you.
you know what this character I'm being?
What?
What character are you being? Hey, Katie.
The water's frozen.
It's
Oh,
it's a little
It's a little what? Hey, your sound is muted for some reason. It's weird because you're not muted, but I can't hear anything that you guys are saying.
what?
Oh,
I
okay.
can
Say that,
hear you.
Seneca. Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay, tell him again. You won't be able to hear Drake because it's something's weird with my speakers, but just tell him what you were saying.
It's like a little flying squirrel named Rocky.
Can you tell her
Show
like
me
Rocky
your-
and Bullwinkle?
Yeah, that's what she's referring to.
And
That's
like,
hilarious.
And
I
like
told him about Rocky and Bullwinkle.
yeah.
That's
Rocky
cool.
and Bullwinkle, like it's a really cool thing.
Yeah.
And like And
I
the
see.
joke is like he's flying school, but he wears a pilot's helmet because he's
Yeah, yeah. I see your squirrel ears.
He says he sees your squirrel ears.
I know.
It looks like the pilot helmet though. That's why you're wearing it. It does actually look like that pilot helmet.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Okay.
For sure.
We're gonna stop the recording now in a moment, but yeah, let's leave it at that. We got to get ready for that other
How
call soon.
can you only hear them?
Because it's connected to my headphones. For some reason, when I play the speakers out loud right now, it
Yeah.
like then Drake can't hear us. I don't know what's going on because it doesn't normally do that.
Yeah.
It's being
All right,
weird.
y'all. Bye. See you on the next one.
Bye.
Say bye, everybody. Bye. Say bye.
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 You say